Chapter 198. Yes, Master. After Collis finished speaking, she began to glow. Wuming knew that Collis was constantly recording things related to this world. As long as Collis thought a series of questions, she could get the answer. The answers were stored by Collis for convenient reference in the future. Knowledge was actually wisdom, which was an extremely precious resource. Odin sacrificed an eye to obtain supreme wisdom, which was the Lune rune. Zeus obtained supreme wisdom after swallowing the goddess of wisdom, Métis. This was enough to show the importance of wisdom and knowledge. After Collis entered her working state, Wuming began to wander around, looking at the surrounding scenery. No wonder there are gods living in seclusion here. Although this place is a bit strange, it is still a good place to live in seclusion. With that, Wuming stopped, because a small wooden house appeared in front of him. Interesting. Wuming's mouth curled up slightly. Then he walked towards a small wooden house. Opening the door of the small wooden house, he saw darkness. Although he couldn't see what was inside, Wuming still walked in. After entering, what entered Wuming's eyes was a gloomy space. In the middle of the space, there were 3 people sitting. On the left was an old monk wearing an ancient monk robe. On the right was a young girl with glass eyes wearing a gorgeous princess robe. The one in the middle was a middle-aged man with messy black hair. He was dressed in a rather sloppy, ancient warrior's attire. Obviously, the black-haired, middle-aged man in the middle was the leader of the old monk and the glass-eyed princess. The 3 of them sat in a triangular formation. There was a small hanging furnace in the middle with sake in it. The middle-aged man held a wine vessel in his hand, and the old monk and the glass-eyed princess didn't have wine cups or anything like that beside them. Obviously, this was prepared for the middle-aged man. Wuming walked in front of the middle-aged man, to the right of the monk and the left of the glass-eyed princess, and sat down. "Welcome, King of Disobedience." The glass-eyed princess bowed slightly and spoke first. Wuming nodded to show his respect. The old monk didn't say anything, and Wuming didn't care about him either. "Ha ha ha ha, do you want a bite, otherworlder?" After the glass-eyed princess finished speaking, the big man in the middle raised his cup and shook it at Wuming. Wuming narrowed his eyes. It seemed that Pandora was not the only one who knew that he came from another world. "Forget about drinking. I don't really like drinking with people I'm not familiar with. Speaking of which, you're the grandfather that Huina mentioned, right?" Wuming asked directly. That's right. I'm Huina's grandfather. What do you think? My granddaughter isn't bad, right?" The burly man said with an evil look on his face as he drank another mouthful of wine. "Huina is a good child. It's a shame for her to stay under you." Wuming ignored the man's evil look and directly spoke sarcastically. "Anyway, I've already given her to you. Just treat her as your witch." The burly man didn't care about Wuming's sarcasm, smiled casually, and then drank another mouthful of wine. "Let's not talk too much. I don't care who the 2 people beside you are. I just want to know if the last king was hidden by you, the male life of Susanoo." Wuming not only directly stated his purpose, but also the real name of the burly man. Yes, the burly man in front of Wuming is a famous Japanese god, the male life of Susanoo. Susanoo was one of the 3 sons of Izanagi and Izanami, the 2 ancient gods of Japan. The other 2 are the Japanese sun goddesses Amaterasu Amakami and Tsukuyami. In Japan's Kojiki, Susanoo is called the male life of Susanoo. He also has many names such as Tame Horsehead, Tame King, Susanoo, and so on. All in all, Susanoo is a very important god in the pantheon, comparable to Athena of Greece. The reason why Wuming knew of the burly man's name was because of the long item wrapped in cloth from Clear Autumn Courtyard's Huina, heavenly cloud sword. Huina claimed that this was the sky cluster cloud that her grandfather bestowed upon her, but Wuming discovered that this sky cluster cloud was a subsidiary god. The only god who could make the heavenly cloud sword be affiliated to was Susanoo. According to the legend, Susanoo wielded the sword of Tatsuka and killed the Yamata no Orochi. He found a treasure sword from the tail of the Yamata no Orochi, which was the heavenly cloud sword. In other words, the burly man was steel. However, the burly man was not displeased when his real name was revealed. Instead, he laughed out loud. Oomph. As I said, as long as he comes in contact with Weena, he will know your name. The old monk sitting on the left said with some displeasure. So what? It doesn't matter to me whether he knows or not. It's really exciting. I have many names. Let's call me Susanoo for the time being. What about you, alien? Susanoo grinned and then asked Wooming. I also have many names, but my favorite is Wooming. Just call me Wooming. As soon as he said that, the old monk and Princess Glass Eyes instantly understood Wooming's intention. Since he was a god, he must have a weakness. Just like the followers of the Holy Grail War, hiding their real name was to avoid weaknesses. The name Wooming didn't sound like a god. In this way, they couldn't find his weakness through his name. Oomph. Do you think we can't know your real name if you don't tell us? Your battle with another god slayer has already exposed your real name, Vilo silenced. The old monk was quite unconvinced. After the old monk said that, Princess Glass Eyes realized that something was going to happen. When she was about to speak, Wooming spoke. If my perception is correct, you are a human. Wooming's eyes became sharp and looked directly at the old monk. In Wooming's perception, the old monk was not a god, but a magician who cultivated to the extreme. And Princess Glass Eyes had a similar aura to Guinevere, whom Wooming had seen before. There was no doubt that Princess Glass Eyes was a god. Everyone here is a great existence. You are just a human. How dare you be presumptuous in front of me? Boom! Wooming's magical power rushed out of his body. Wooming's scarlet eyes stared at the old monk as if he was looking at a dead man. The old monk couldn't move as if he was in a dragon's nest, being stared at by tens of thousands of dragons. That was the pressure caused by Wooming releasing his dragon's power. The old monk's face instantly turned pale. Princess Glass Eyes and Susanoo, who were not targeted, also felt a little pressure. Please be merciful, Wooming-sama. Princess Glass Eyes said awkwardly. Wooming looked at her, and Princess Glass Eyes instantly broke out in cold sweat. Then, Wooming looked at Susanoo, who had already stopped smiling. Then, Wooming put away his dragon's power. In an instant, the old monk, who was targeted, breathed a sigh of relief. How about it? Do you want to continue to test me, Susanoo-sama? Chapter 199. Wooming's words were not wrong at all. From the beginning, when Wooming came in, the old monk did not speak. It was not until Wooming said Susanoo's real name that the old monk opened his mouth. Every time the old monk spoke, he was targeting Wooming, and Wooming could naturally see it. And although the three of them were sitting in a situation where Susanoo was the leader, it did not mean that he was the leader. It could be seen from Princess Glass Eyes' attempt to stop the old monk's speech, but she was interrupted by Wooming. The reason why he was interrupted was because Wooming also wanted to show Susanoo who was in charge. From the way Wooming released draconic force to suppress the old monk, it could be seen that Susanoo's smile had disappeared. As the root dragon, after absorbing the root power of the X-Moon world, Wooming's draconic force had reached an unprecedented height. Especially just now. If Wooming suddenly released draconic force at a very close distance, and the other party was not prepared, he would be completely suppressed. Even Susanoo, who was not the target, felt the pressure, so he had to take it seriously. As for the magic power, Wooming deliberately released it to set off the atmosphere. You only need to tell me about the last king and monarch ape. I don't want to know anything else, including their identities. When Wooming said this, Susanoo began to laugh. He kept slapping his thigh, and the magic power of Susanoo also leaked out. After laughing, Susanoo instantly looked at Wooming. As expected of someone from another world, you're really not weak. Even I, the graduated god of disobedience, want to play with you. Susanoo's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. In response, Wooming just said a few words. Is that so? Boom! The small wooden house instantly exploded, and three figures escaped somewhat awkwardly. God of disobedience, please calm down. Princess Glass Eyes said a little anxiously. The old monk next to her was a little angry. He's too arrogant. Why don't we take him down together? The old monk looked at Susanoo and Princess Glass Eyes. Take me down? I even wonder if you're too old for your head. Wu Ming's voice came from the small wooden house that had turned into a pile of ruins. Although you're frozen by my draconic force was a sneak attack, don't overestimate yourself. Yes, although Wu Ming had successfully frozen the old monk with his draconic force, it did not mean that the old monk was a powerless guy. A magician who could work with the god of disobedience and the god ancestor had a certain degree of strength. But boom! The ruins exploded and a meteor flashed through the ruins, accompanied by the sound of chains. It charged towards the old monk. Not good, Susanoo shouted and quickly retreated. Princess Glass Eyes followed, and the old monk stayed where he was. Don't underestimate me, God Slayer. The old monk roared and put his palms together to form a Buddhist seal. The Buddhist seals formed a wall filled with Buddhist aura. Boundless demonic power gushed out in all directions. One look, and one could tell that this was not a weak move. However, the silver-white meteor easily broke through the Buddhist wall, as easily as a stone falling into the water. What? The old monk couldn't believe it. He was quite confident in his curse technique. That wall just now, even Susanoo would have a hard time attacking it. He didn't expect Wu Ming to break through it so easily. The chains wrapped around the silver meteor hit the old monk fiercely. The old monk was knocked away like a deflated ball and fell heavily to the ground. The old monk spat out blood. Obviously, as a human, even if his means were superb, his physical fitness was still inferior to Wu Ming. The silver meteor stopped, revealing Wu Ming's figure holding the rune of 10,000 methods. He just relied on the rune of 10,000 methods to easily break through the old monk's Buddhist wall. After all, as long as it was made of magical power, rune of 10,000 methods could return it to its original state, that is, nothing. In fact, if you used countless rule breakers to pierce a servant, you would be able to directly return to the martyr's palace. This was because a servant was an amalgamation of magic power. Of course, that was only if the servant stood there and did nothing to stop you from stabbing it. The rule breaker talisman in his hand, which had exhausted all of its power, shattered. Then Wu Ming looked at Susanoo, who dodged the chains just now, and Princess Glass Eyes, who went to the old monk's side to heal him. At the same time, Princess Glass Eyes spoke. "Please calm down, Lord of Disobedience." Princess Glass Eyes' voice sounded quite helpless. Because she respected Wu Ming from the beginning, Wu Ming didn't want to trouble her, so Wu Ming didn't care about Princess Glass Eyes, who healed the old monk. As for the old monk, if it weren't for Princess Glass Eyes, he would have died a long time ago. One must know that the current Enkidu was not a chain that could only bind the gods and myths. Instead, it had evolved into a powerful chain that could both attack and defend. Moreover, its binding effect had been enhanced ahead of time. "That's Heaven's Lock, right?" Susanoo asked. Although he didn't know what the lightning-shaped dagger in Wu Ming's hand was, it didn't mean that he didn't know the golden chain. Susanoo, who had a special intelligence channel, naturally knew that Wu Ming had a golden chain in his hand, and it was a chain that could attack gods. After careful study, Susanoo has determined that it was the Enkidu of the Sumer gods in Mesopotamia. That was why he dodged Wu Ming's attack just now. If he was tied by that chain, he would be at the mercy of Wu Ming. As expected of the Susanoo who used tricks to kill Orochi, it seems that you can only play tricks. Wu Ming sneered, then turned around. Susanoo's face was gloomy. "I will kill the great sage, heaven's equal, and I will deal with the last king." After saying that, Wu Ming disappeared. Shrine. After Wu Ming entered Soul World, Erica, Liliana, Yuri, and Hina stayed around the magic formation. No one complained, they just waited quietly. At this time, the magic formation lit up again. All four of them were attracted to it. Wu Ming's figure appeared in the center of the magic formation. "How is it? Is it solved?" Erica asked. Chapter 200. Half and half. As soon as Razan said that, Erica and the others were quite confused. There were two reasons why Wu Ming went to Soul World to see Hui Na's grandfather. The first was about Luo Hao's crusade against the great sage. The second was about the last king. Although Silent Wonder didn't get anything out of Susanu's mouth, because of his relationship with Yushur, the moment he asked the question, Silent Wonder was informed by Yushur about the great sage, heaven's equal, and the last king. However, because Yushur directly transmitted the knowledge to Wu Ming's mind instead of answering the question, Yushur only passed on the history of the last king and the great sage. After the last king killed the last godslayer of the previous generation, he fell into a deep sleep in the place where he killed the last godslayer of the previous generation, which was Japan. Because it was a piece of history, Wu Ming didn't know who the last king was. He only saw the scene of him holding the sword of salvation and releasing the thunder of salvation. His figure was blocked by the lightning, so Wu Ming didn't see his figure clearly. However, Wu Ming always felt that there was a special power protecting him, so Wu Ming couldn't see his identity. The great sage, heaven's equal, was much easier to deal with. The great sage, heaven's equal, was sealed by the old monk, Susu, Princess Glassy Eyes, and several other gods who lived in seclusion. They used a spell to target the great sage, heaven's equal. When the dragon snake appeared, the spell that trapped the great sage would weaken, and the great sage would be released. After the dragon snake was killed, the great sage would be forced back to the western heavenly palace by the spell. Wu Ming guessed that the reason for this was to prevent the dragon snake from attracting the last king of the strongest steel. As everyone knew, steel and serpent were mortal enemies. Where there was serpent, there would be steel. Therefore, in order to prevent the last king from appearing, the great sage needed to eliminate the dragon and serpent. The reason why Wu Ming only said half of it was because there was too little information about the last king, so Wu Ming couldn't analyze the last king's weakness. Because of the lack of information, Wu Ming's warrior avatar has been unable to be activated. But Wu Ming walked to the steps of the shrine. "I will solve the problem of the great sage and the last king," Wu Ming said arrogantly. Wu Ming's words were full of confidence, which made several people who were a little uneasy at first feel relieved. "Let's go back to sleep." After that, Wu Ming took the lead. Erica and the others looked at each other. Then, they smiled and followed soundless out of the shrine. The next day, airport. Wu Ming came here with Erica, Liliana, and Huina, waiting for someone's arrival. Wu Ming couldn't help but remember the content of Alice's call to him yesterday. Last night, Wu Ming returned to his room, and as soon as he lay down, the mobile phone specially prepared for Wu Ming rang. Because of Wu Ming's identity, the contacts on his mobile phone were basically the phone numbers of some high-level Magic Association members. This was to facilitate Wu Ming's actions in each area, although Wu Ming didn't need it. In addition to those, there were also the phone numbers of Erica, Liliana, Kodoin, Huina, Alice, Salvatore, and a few others. Of course, Wu Ming did not delete Salvatore's phone number, and he specifically marked hang up. He picked up the phone and looked at the words Princess Alice written on it. By the way, this mobile phone was given to Wu Ming by Alice. She called it, "I'm so busy that I can't contact you, so I specially prepared a mobile phone for you." Wu Ming picked up the phone and spoke immediately. "How can our princess have time to call me?" Wu Ming said calmly. "Master Wu Ming, you are really good at joking. Just call me Alice." Although the attitude was very respectful, Wu Ming still heard a trace of slyness from her words. "Well, take it as a return gift for the last time in your room," Wu Ming said with a sly smile. Although Alice looked like a well-behaved girl, Wu Ming knew that she had the potential to be a little witch in her bones. He could see it just by the fact that she had escaped from his house. "Really, Master Wu Ming, I have something serious to talk to you about now." Although this sentence sounded very calm, Alice, who was on the other end of the phone, had already blushed. Fortunately, there was no one else around her. It was really a blessing to see Princess Alice of Europe blushing. "You are coming to Japan tomorrow, right?" Wu Ming did not tease Alice anymore and went straight to the topic. "Oh, how did Master Wu Ming know? Did Mr. Sebastian say it?" Alice's voice was full of surprise. In this regard, Wu Ming just smiled. When Wu Ming came to Japan, he specifically contacted Sebastian through contact magic and asked him to bring Alice to Japan to study the Last King together. The reason why Alice had not come yet after a few days was that Alice still had to deal with some things in Europe. Alice had originally escaped from her own house using the ghost body, which meant that Alice owed some work. Although Alice was the current special advisor of the Sage Parliament and didn't have many things to do, it still couldn't stop the accumulation of work. In fact, the reason why Alice sneaked to Wu Ming's place in Italy at that time was because the birth of the seventh king added a lot of tasks, which needed the permission of Alice, the former speaker and now special advisor, to carry out. Because of Alice's stubbornness, the accumulated missions had increased by the time she returned. The most important thing was Ericsson's obstruction. Although her master's body was fine, Ericsson was still a little worried about letting Alice cross half the world and go to Japan. As long as she was not facing the God Slayer, Ericsson could be said to be a perfect career woman. Even facing Sebastian, at most, she would just give in a little. Just as Seabass was about to argue with her, Alice stopped him. After that, Alice secretly left her house and boarded the plane. That's right, Master Wu Ming. I have already boarded the plane with Mr. Sebastian. I think we will arrive tomorrow morning. Remember to come and pick me up. Then, after Wu Ming said, "Oh," Wu Ming hung up the phone and went to sleep. Really, you're not a child anymore. Do you still need someone to pick you up? In the room provided by the History Editing Committee, Wu Ming said casually. Although he said that, Wu Ming still brought his old and new servants to pick him up. Wu Ming, Her Highness Alice has arrived. Chapter 201. Erica withdrew her gaze from the plane that had just landed outside the window. Wu Ming understood and stood up. Let's go and greet Her Royal Highness. Alice and Sebastian got off the plane and instantly saw Wu Ming and others who had been waiting for a long time. Thank you for your hard work, Sebastian. Wu Ming nodded to Sebastian. You are too kind, Master Wu Ming. Sebastian put his right hand on his heart and bowed slightly. Alice, too. She is tired from the journey. You're talking as if I'm just an accessory. Is this how you treat a girl who was once alone in a room, Lord Wu Ming? Alice covered her face with her hands and sobbed softly, as if she was an abandoned girl. This caused Liliana and the others to be slightly surprised. However, Erica, who was an old friend of Alice's, wasn't surprised at all. Well, don't do that. I have a new discovery about the last king. Wu Ming shook his head helplessly. Seeing this, Alice stopped crying and put on a serious expression. Let's talk about it at my place. Later, Wu Ming, others, and Alice took the vehicle provided by the Historical Redaction Committee and came to the villa where Wu Ming temporarily lived. In the conference room of the villa, Sebastian stood behind Wu Ming. Alice sat opposite Wu Ming, listening to Wu Ming's explanation, while Erica and others listened quietly. So that's how it is. Master Wu Ming not only met Master Guinevere, but also entered the soul world. After listening to Wu Ming's speculation about the last king, Alice couldn't help but sigh. Well, that's how it is. Although that Susanuki-zun really pissed me off. Wu Ming said somewhat uninterestedly. Alice said after she organized her thoughts. What does Lord Wu Ming think of the legend of King Arthur? When Alice asked this question, Erica and the others were all puzzled. After all, there was a high probability that Wu Ming was the knight who was incarnated from the legendary dragon, Vilo Serenthod. It was like asking a chef what a spoon looks like. However, Wu Ming's answer was unexpected. If you're referring to a deeper understanding, I don't know much about the legend of King Arthur. After all, there are many gods in this world. A god might be the god of craftsmen in one divine system in Europe and the god of fire in another divine system in Asia. But no matter what, the multiple names of the gods were related to each other. Therefore, even if Wu Ming was indeed the Vilo the Ransword, he dared not claim that he had a clear understanding of the legend of King Arthur. Actually, the legend of King Arthur is fictional. Fictional. Everyone, including Erica, was shocked. Wu Ming was a little puzzled. Although his identity was imposed by this world, it couldn't be said to be fictional. Then, as if thinking of something, Wu Ming looked at Alice. Do you mean that the legend of King Arthur is based on me? Alice smiled and nodded, as expected of Lord Wu Ming. That's right, that's the truth. Then, looking at everyone's dumbfounded expression, Alice continued. Lord Wu Ming has met Guinevere. I believe your memory and hers should have been recovered. However, For what you said just now, it seems that your memory is not fully recovered. Wu Ming just nodded at the mention of recovering his memory. Because there had been cases of gods of disobedience who had lost their memory, the Sage Council seemed to treat Wu Ming, who didn't look like a god of disobedience, as a god of disobedience who had lost his ancient memory. In fact, it wasn't wrong. When Wu Ming came to this world, he did know that he was the god of disobedience, but he didn't know what his divine name was. It wasn't until the battle with Warband that he learned that he was the Villo, their Ransword. However, now that he thought about it, it seemed that the Uruk, Hyunryong, and the Ransword were also Wu Ming's divine identity. After all, this was a world where the gods had multiple divine names. Then again, being treated as someone who had lost his ancient memory also saved Wu Ming the trouble of explaining. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. Lord Guinevere, the divine ancestor, actually existed a long time ago. On the way to find the last king, Lord Guinevere met Lord Villo. Everyone looked at Wu Ming. Later, because she fell in love with Lord Villo, but because she still shouldered the burden of finding the last king, Lord Guinevere had to fabricate the legend of King Arthur. Gods have multiple identities, and if you have enough means, you can pull them out of the myth. According to legend, the last king is the strongest steel who will appear at the end of the world. That is, when there are too many gods' layers, the last king will appear. Combined with the story of King Arthur, everyone understood at once. In other words, Guinevere's original purpose was to create a myth similar to the last king, so as to summon the last king. Erica said with some disbelief. That's right. Alice nodded. Then what does this have to do with Wu Ming Sama? Liliana asked. Of course, it has something to do with it. Alice looked at Wu Ming again. Because she fell in love with Lord Villo, Guinevere unconsciously put Lord Villo into the legend of King Arthur when she created the myth. In the end, the myth of King Arthur has been widely recognized by the world, and Guinevere, who realized the problem, added another identity to the King Arthur myth. That is King Arthur's strongest knight, Villo their Ransword. Wanli Guyoli said, Yes, but it still doesn't change that King Arthur was created based on Lord Wu Ming. But because Lord Guinevere was killed before the summoning ritual began, this method was not used. When Lord Guinevere was reincarnated, she had already discovered that the legend of King Arthur had been modified by humans in later generations, and it was no longer the legend of the last king. So Lord Guinevere gave up this method. However, this method created Lord Wu Ming, right? Qingqiu Courtyard's Huina smiled slightly. That's right, Alice continued, and everyone looked at Wu Ming. The current legend of King Arthur clearly shows how similar King Arthur and his strongest knight are. King Arthur is said to be the incarnation of the Red Dragon, and the Villo is the legendary knight transformed from the dragon. King Arthur has an unparalleled sacred sword of stars, and the Villo also has a sacred sword of meteor. The Knights of the Round Table worship and admire King Arthur and the Villo the most. When King Arthur went out to war, the Villo was in power in the city, and when the Villo was out to war, King Arthur was in power in the city. The Villo disappeared after the unification of Britain, and that was when King Arthur began to decline. Alice listed out a series of similarities between King Arthur and the Villo. These conditions undoubtedly show that Lord Wu Ming, who is also Lord Villo, is King Arthur. The final sentence left everyone speechless for a long time. Well, Wu Ming felt like his head was going to explode. Chapter 202. Wu Ming was dumbfounded as he listened to Alice's explanation. At this moment, Wu Ming only wanted to use one sentence to explain his current feelings. As the person involved, I didn't even know. Then, Wu Ming said that he wanted to think about what to do next and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Everyone looked at Sebastian in confusion. Sebastian bowed slightly and said politely, Ladies, don't worry. Lord Wu Ming's ability to accept things is very strong. He just needs time, probably. In the end, Sebastian said probably with a guilty conscience. After all, this story was too strange. Even Sebastian could not accept it. After all, his worldview was messed up. On the other side, Wu Ming sat on an empty beach and looked at the sea tiredly. What's wrong, my compatriot? Are you unable to accept what that which said? A magnetic, lowly voice came from behind Wooming. Wooming did not turn around and said calmly. When Alice got off the plane, Wooming sensed Athena's presence. Then, Wooming shook his head. That's not the case. Thinking about it, what Alice said seems to be true. The holy sword, the dragon, the knight, and his life experiences. The two of them complemented each other and were inseparable. In this world where there were many identities, there was nothing wrong with it. Then, why are you still so negative? This is not an expression that a warrior should have, my compatriot. Athena sat beside Wooming and said in detail. Wooming smiled and shook his head. That's true. Let's deal with the great sage, heaven's equal first. Wooming stood up as he spoke. By the way, where have you been all this time? After all, this was the culprit that caused the battle between Wooming and Perseus. Of course, Wooming wanted to know what she did after achieving her goal. I have been chasing after the god ancestor. Athena looked at Wooming with her snake-like eyes. Guinevere, why? You shouldn't be in contact with her. Athena stood up and said, although I have nothing to do with the god ancestor, I don't want to resurrect the strongest steel. After all, steel is my mortal enemy. Athena's words were full of disgust. Is that so? I'm sorry. I will resurrect the strongest steel because I want to defeat him. Wooming's red eyes met Athena's snake-like eyes. In that case, you are my enemy. Athena's tone was cold. The two of them looked at each other without saying a word. The atmosphere turned cold. By the way, are you still chasing after the snake? Wooming suddenly asked. Athena was surprised for a moment. Then, she looked at Wooming with her charming and tender face and her unusually firm eyes. Of course, my goal is only the snake. Then, here you go. As he spoke, Wooming tossed a stone to Athena. My compatriot, what are you planning? Athena held Gorgon's stone with both hands and looked at Wooming with some doubts. Aren't you the goddess of wisdom? Think about it carefully. Wooming casually bowed. Oh, are you trying to test my wisdom? Darkness appeared in Athena's hand as she put away the Gorgon stone. You want to fight with me, don't you, my compatriot? Athena glared at Wooming, her eyes filled with fighting spirit. As the goddess of wisdom, Athena was also the goddess of war. She appeared as the god of disobedience, so she must be belligerent in her bones. Wooming also nodded. Yes, I want to fight with you, but I want to find and resurrect the last king, and you want to stop the resurrection of the last king. You said before that there will be a battle between you and me. So, let's use this battle to decide whether to release the last king or not. Wooming also looked at Athena with a smile full of fighting spirit. That sounds good. I agree. Athena began to release her magical power, and darkness began to fill the surroundings. But the time has to be after I defeat the great sage, heaven's equal. Wooming said, just when Athena was surrounded by snakes. Athena looked at Wooming with some displeasure. Are you trying to escape, my compatriot? Facts proved that as the god of disobedience, even the goddess of wisdom would be disturbed by the nature of the god of disobedience. Don't misunderstand. I have no intention of escaping. First, it's because Luo Hao is about to come to Japan, and I have to defeat the great sage, heaven's equal, before he arrives. Second, you haven't recovered your Trinity body yet. I left a seal on the Gorgon stone just now. I believe that even you would need a few days to unlock it. Athena's frown eased. Thinking carefully, when she came into contact with the Gorgon stone just now, nothing happened. Logically speaking, when Athena came into contact with his divinity, the Gorgon stone, the two would definitely merge into one. Wooming deliberately added a super advanced seal on the Gorgon stone to guard against Athena. Now, it was no longer necessary. Is this also part of your plan? You're both my compatriot and my nemesis. Athena revealed a smile despite her words. All right then, let my intelligence experience the sealing technique you've set up. Then, Athena turned around and disappeared into the darkness. Let me remind you, the god ancestor and his god shadow have also come to the easternmost land. Athena's voice floated in the air and gradually faded away. Guinevere and Lancelot also came. I was wondering why Athena suddenly came to Japan. Wooming analyzed. Then, Wu-ming also turned around and disappeared like a whirlwind. On the other side, Guinevere held a round plate in his hand and stood on a high ground, looking into the distance. Lord Villo, Lancelot, who was in his shadow, shook his head helplessly. He said to himself, "Sorry, Lord Villo, for the master that I can't forget, I will stand on his side." Huaxia, Lu Mountain, a beautiful girl, sat on a cushion and said to the boy kneeling in front of her, Go to Japan first and inform the court that Luo Hao will visit in a few days." "Yes, master," disciple will take his leave. "Wait." The girl stopped the boy. "Don't forget that he is also there. You must go and visit him first. Don't be rude." The girl reminded him. "Master, don't worry. Will visit Lord Wu-ming first." In a secret cult's hideout in the United States, the enchanting silver-haired vampire was holding a little girl covered in wounds and naked with only a few bandages covering her body. Beside her were various black magicians who had been drained of blood and died a long time ago. "I say, you are really good at running. You made me delay the mission that Lord gave me." The vampire smiled seductively, but the injured girl had already fainted. Now the conditions to unlock the last king are almost there. I remember that Lord is in a place called Japan. Thinking, the silver-haired vampire dragged the unconscious girl and left. The easternmost land was destined to not be peaceful. Chapter 203. That night, Alice stayed in Wu-ming's villa. Of course, it was a harmonious night. Nothing happened that shouldn't have happened. Early the next morning, a handsome young man came to Wu-ming's residence. "The disobedient king of heaven and earth will live as long as the heavens and earth and will never be destroyed. Your might is limitless, and your wisdom and benevolence will shine throughout the world." Lu Yinghua did not dare to be negligent. After Luo Hao notified the others, he rushed to Japan overnight. Since it was late at night, he did not disturb Wu-ming. However, early the next morning, Lu Yinghua knelt 3 times and kowtowed 9 times to Wu-ming. "Stop right there." Wu-ming sighed. He felt a headache coming on as he looked at Lu Yinghua, who was kneeling on one knee before him. Erica and the others around him were looking at him with shocked expressions. "Didn't I tell you before? You don't have to say that when you see me." However, Lu Yinghua kept his head down and knelt on one knee. "Master said that I can't do anything to you. If I don't do this, Master will kill me if she finds out." The others were speechless. As expected of the cult master, "You have quite the personality," Erica said with a fake smile. As expected, the Godslayers are all brutal. Wanli Guyuli looked at Wu-ming with resentment. Wu-ming waved his hand. "Don't compare me to the other Godslayers." "That's right. The other Godslayers can't compare to our master's combat prowess." Liliana recalled how Wu-ming had repaired the destroyed grounds after the battle. As he listened to the girl's comments, Wu-ming vaguely noticed that Lu Yinghua's expression was slightly unnatural. It was as if he was holding something back. But isn't the king's nature a god? Clear autumn courtyard's Huina's innocent face was filled with doubt. When she said that, the others, including Lu Yinghua, remembered that Wu-ming was a disobedient god. Because Wu-ming's behavior was too similar to that of an ordinary person, everyone subconsciously treated Wu-ming as a human. Then, realizing that Wu-ming was the god of disobedience, Lu Ying immediately fell to the ground on all fours. "You are the supreme god of the heavens and the earth. You will live as long as the heavens and the earth. You will never be destroyed, and you will rule over all things. Your might is limitless, and you will benefit the world." Endless words came out of Lu Yinghua's mouth. Wu-ming didn't want to say anything more. "You came looking for me because Luo Hao is about to come to Japan, right?" Wu-ming instinctively interrupted Lu Yinghua's speech. Because he was interrupted, Lu Yinghua was stunned for a moment before replying. "Yes, and my master has a very high opinion of you, senior. He asked me to pay you a visit with the same etiquette as my master. My master specifically asked me to send a message to you. The great sage, Heaven's Equal, is a god that my master is determined to kill. I hope that you will not interfere." However, this sentence was filled with power. As soon as he said this, Erica and the others were displeased. Just as Erica and the others were about to say something, Wu-Ming raised his hand and gestured for them to keep quiet. Then, Wu-Ming spoke. In that case, please tell Luo how that I've decided to crusade against the great sage, Heaven's Equal. If possible, tell her not to come. Then, Wu-Ming added, just take it that I've settled it for her. As soon as he said this, Lu Yinghua's eyes widened. As expected of the king of disobedience, my master's best friend, and a person who disobeys everything, I'll definitely pass on your message. I'll take my leave. After saying this, Lu Yinghua couldn't take it anymore. He turned into a shadow and left. I don't know why, but I feel like he hates us, Erica said while stroking her chin. I have the same feeling. I can sense a faint hostility from Lu Yinghua, Liliana agreed. Huh, really? I didn't feel it. Wanli Gu Yoli was at a loss. That's because you don't have any combat experience, Yoli. Erica and Liliana are both Grand Knights. Being able to sense hostility is a necessary condition for a warrior, Wu-Ming explained. His Majesty is right, Yoli. Huina can also sense that hostility. Huina, who is the #1 witch Tachibana, also said. Wanli Gu Yoli lowered his head slightly, as if blaming himself for not being able to sense it. Seeing this scene, Wu-Ming spoke with a smile. Don't underestimate yourself, Yoli. Your spirit vision is a trump card. Wanli Gu Yoli raised his head and looked at everyone. Erica and Huina also nodded. Then, Liliana said, that's right. Although I also have spirit vision, compared to yours, mine seems a little useless. Despite this, Liliana wasn't discouraged. After all, she was a knight, not a witch. After all, a talent like spirit vision couldn't be improved through training. Therefore, Wanli Gu Yoli's high-probability spirit vision could be said to be a very powerful ability. Don't belittle yourself, Yuli, Erica teased. Have confidence, Yuli. Qingxiu Courtyard's Huina raised her small hand and acted like she was cheering Wanli Gu Yoli on. Is that so? Thank you very much, everyone. I'm fine. Wanli Gu Yoli blushed a little. As if thinking of something, Wu-Ming scratched his head in confusion. Speaking of spirit vision, where did Alice go? If it's Alice, she probably overslept, the meticulous Liliana said. After all, Erica also had the habit of sleeping in. When Liliana went to wake Erica up, she also went to check on Alice. As a result, a rather drowsy voice of, I'll sleep for another 5 minutes came from the room. Due to Lu Yinghua's arrival, Liliana had forgotten about this matter. So, our Princess Highness hasn't woken up yet? Wu-Ming's eyes flashed with a playful glint. Oh, Wu-Ming, are you going to do something? Erica asked slyly. WH, what do you want to do? Liliana, Wanli Gu Yoli, and Qingxiu Courtyard's Huina shouted with flushed faces. Don't worry, I'm just going to wake Alice up. As he spoke, Wu-Ming walked toward Alice's room. He left behind a group of stunned girls who had yet to react to the situation. Wait. Even if you're a king, you can't be rude to a lady. You're really shameless. Huina thinks it's not good to do this so early in the morning. Amidst the 3 girls' condemnation, Wu-Ming walked to the stairs leading to the 2nd floor and took out a bunch of keys. The spare keys that guy gave me have come in handy. Wu-Ming recalled the I know what to do look on Gantai Dongma's face when he secretly gave him a bunch of keys. When the girls saw the keys in Wu-Ming's hand, their expressions changed drastically. If that was the case, did it not mean that Wu-Ming had spare keys to every room? The girls had no time to care about Alice's situation. They hastily returned to their rooms and began to reinforce their doors. However, they seemed to have forgotten that even if it was a high-level magic trick, Wu-Ming's Godslayer body could ignore it. Chapter 204. Walking into Alice's room, Wu-Ming saw a picture of Sleeping Beauty. Although she only stayed for 1 night, the room was tidied up like a young girl's room. Together with a beautiful European princess, it formed an exceptionally beautiful picture. Smelling the fragrant scent of a young girl in the air, Wu-Ming walked toward Alice, who was still asleep. Perhaps because Alice's body was not well all year round, it formed a habit of not getting up in the morning. Coupled with yesterday's journey, even with Wuming's protection, the mental fatigue could not be eliminated. After all, Wuming's long-term protection only turned Alice's body into the same as a normal person's. All sorts of reasons resulted in the scene before Wuming's eyes. Looking at Alice's sleeping face, Wuming couldn't think of pranking her anymore. Wuming stroked Alice's forehead as he spoke softly. "Alice, wake up. It's time to get up." "Erickson, I'll sleep for a while more. Anyway, I'm done with those things," Alice murmured. Wuming smiled helplessly, because Wuming's mischievous heart was ignited again. Then, Wuming leaned close to Alice's ear and blew. "If you don't get up, I'm going to give you another long-lasting protection kiss." Alice's consciousness was instantly awakened as she opened her amber-like eyes. Looking at the sleeping beauty waking up, Wuming watched with interest and didn't move at all. "Woo, Master Wuming, it's you." Alice grabbed her blanket, her face flushed, and nervously looked at Wuming's enlarged face. Wuming didn't speak, he just looked into Alice's eyes. Alice also looked into Wuming's eyes. Gradually, Wuming's body leaned forward slightly, and Alice, as if cooperating, raised her body slightly. The two of them kissed each other like lovers who had not seen each other for a long time. All that was left in the room was the sound of people clicking their tongues and panting. After an unknown period of time, the two of them separated. Alice's posture changed from lying on the bed to lying in Wuming's arms, and Wuming's posture changed from half lying on the edge of the bed to sitting on the bed. Alice gasped for air. Her cheeks were abnormally red, and her amber eyes were moist. Wuming, on the other hand, licked the corner of his lips in reminiscence as he looked at Alice with a smile. Then, "Lord Wuming, are you here to flirt with a lady?" Alice looked at Wuming with resentment. Wuming looked at Alice in his arms, who was different from her usual ladylike demeanor, and said happily, "Of course, it's to see you act like a little wish. You're here for the great sage, heaven's equal, right?" Alice said without thinking. After all, the matter of the great sage, heaven's equal, was more important. As expected of the princess, Alice. Wuming smiled. Wuming did not let go of Alice, and Alice did not struggle. She just lay in Wuming's arms. "I want you to help me see the power of the great sage, heaven's equal." That's right. Wuming meant to let Alice use her spirit vision to see the power of the great sage, heaven's equal. After all, in the legends, Sun Wuming wreaked havoc in the heavenly palace, fought his way to the 33rd heaven, broke into the underworld, wrote off the book of life and death, learned the 72 transformations, and had endless transformations. He had the somersault cloud, which could be said to be unparalleled, and he also had the golden cudgel, a divine weapon in his hand. After all, even if Wuming was very powerful, he would not ignore any enemy. This was what his master, Skaha, told Wuming. "Know yourself and know your enemy, and you'll never be defeated. Don't you have what you on with you who can use spirit vision? Why don't you just let her do it?" Alice said in a rather frivolous voice. Wuming smiled bitterly. "As for Yoli, she needs to see the target before she can use it. So, I'm here to ask you for a favor. Who doesn't know that the famous Princess Alice can use spirit vision on her own?" Wuming was right. Although Yoli's spirit vision was advanced, there were still limitations. She could not use spirit vision on her own accord. Generally speaking, as long as one had the talent of spirit vision, there would be a chance to activate spirit vision passively, regardless of the level of spirit vision. However, not everyone with the talent of spirit vision could activate spirit vision on their own accord. For example, although Liliana also had spirit vision, she could not use it on her own accord. She could only rely on her own spirit vision passively. Wanli Guyoli could use spirit vision on his own accord, but he must have a specific target. Otherwise, he could only rely on spirit vision passively. Alice, who was known as White Witch G, could use spirit vision on her own accord. In other words, Alice could use spirit vision on the things in her mind. However, using spirit vision on her own accord had the negative effect of consuming a lot of stamina and mental power. Moreover, if the activation of spirit vision had a series of powerful effects, such as the higher the level, the higher the image she saw, and the longer the duration, the negative effect would also increase. The last time Alice saw the scene of the Last King, her body almost disappeared after using spirit vision. It was also because the level of spirit vision was too high and the image she saw was more advanced. Alice pretended to be in a difficult situation. But the great sage equaling heaven's spirit vision must be very advanced. My body can't bear it. However, Wu Ming had already expected Alice to say that. That's why I'm here. It doesn't matter even if the buff I gave you is used up, because I can replenish it immediately. Moreover, it's the fastest way. Saying that, Wu Ming looked at Alice's pink lips. No, I think I can still do it if I try hard. Alice immediately said in a panic. Oh, is that so? I think it's hard enough. Let me give you some blessing in advance. Wait. After another round of bickering, Wu Ming helped Alice up. Sure enough, no matter how many times they kissed, Alice was always like a girl, and her cheeks were red. She looked at Wu Ming with some resentment, but Wu Ming smiled. Then I'll start. Having said that, Alice entered her spirit vision state. Alice's eyes fell into a lifeless state, and as she fell into this state, she started to mumble. The golden ape, sealed in the Amaterasu palace. The fragile golden pillar of heaven, the invisible speed, and the delusion breaker, I, attached to it. The overlord of the sea's follower, he was the conqueror of everything, the ever-changing lord of dragons and snakes. Thus, he was resurrected by the steel dragon's forbidden dagger and died by the steel dragon's hands. After that, Alice's body went limp, and Wu Ming quickly held Alice. Alice gasped for breath. Her weak body trembled slightly, and her pale cheeks were dripping with sweat. I didn't expect that just one active spirit vision would exhaust you so much. I'm sorry, Alice, Wu Ming said apologetically. Alice smiled and shook her head. Then, please bless me again, Lord Wu Ming. Use the fastest way. In the room where the sun was shining, the man hugged the girl, and gradually the two became one. Chapter 205. After he walked out of Alice's room, Wu Ming saw several women before him. Stare, Wu Ming asked in confusion. What are you doing? Lord Wu Ming, you didn't do anything to Lady Alice, did you? Wanli Guyuli asked in detail. Wu Ming suddenly smiled. Of course, I'm just waking Alice up. When it came to matters like this, he had done it. However, he had to maintain the appearance that he had not done anything. Well, after all, Her Highness Alice and Wu Ming are publicly acknowledged as a couple in the magic world. It's none of our business whether they did it or not. Erica waved her hand. You're too shameless. My lord, how could you do such a ridiculous thing in broad daylight? Don't listen to Erica's nonsense. Wu Ming frowned. Although something had indeed happened between him and Alice, it was not to that extent. That kind of thing was about things happening naturally. It was just like Wu Ming and Alice's first kiss. They had met each other's eyes, and they had kissed. Although the aura of a young lady on the king is stronger, it's not to that extent. It could only be said that natural airheads were invisible blades. Although Huina of the clear autumn courtyard blushed, she still told the truth. As expected, you did something to Lady Alice, didn't you? Wanli Guyuli suddenly roared. You're damaging the king's dignity. You must be careful. As the king, your words and actions will always affect the people around you. Moreover, it's broad daylight. Although Wanli Guyuli appeared to be a yes man, she was actually a witch who could reprimand the mistakes of those in power. However, she would always be scared to death afterward. Most importantly, when she was reprimanding, Wanli Guyuli was like an old woman. Let's go to the Western Heavenly Palace. We'll deal with the great sage equaling heaven today. Wu Ming directly interrupted Wanli Guyuli's lecture. So sudden, Erica asked seriously. It had to be said that Erica was the head of the few girls who were Wu Ming's attendants. Although Huina of the Blue Autumn Yard wanted to be the first, she was too simple and not as good as Erica in romance. Erica was usually as cunning as a fox, But when it came to business, Erica could always change her mind first, like a ferocious lioness, giving others a sense of trust. Alice triggered her spirit vision just now and told me about the great sage, Heaven's Equal. Moreover, Lu Yinghua has already arrived. Luo, how should be here soon too. Let's take down Sun Wukong before she arrives. Only then did everyone understand why Alice, who had been woken up by Wuming, did not follow him out of bed. The four girls naturally knew that after using spirit vision, one's body would be greatly weakened. Right now, Alice was probably so weak that she could not even get out of bed. However, the girls had forgotten that Alice had the protection bestowed upon her by Wuming. A mere passive spirit vision shouldn't be able to weaken her to the point where she couldn't get up. Doesn't Miss Alice need someone to take care of her? Wanli Guyuli looked worried, as Witch Yuan, who was also tortured by spirit vision until her body was weak, Wanli Guyuli still understood how uncomfortable it was. No need. Alice is already asleep. As long as we hurry back after dealing with the great sage, Heaven's Equal, she will be fine. Moreover, I will leave Sebastian in the villa. Sebastian is very reliable. In order to prove Wuming's words, Sebastian suddenly appeared. Sebastian placed his right hand on his heart and his left hand straight to his trousers as he bowed slightly. I see. Since it's Mr. Sebastian, then he's very reliable. Erica nodded. Erica had known Sebastian for a longer time than the other girls. She had a clear understanding of Sebastian, who was both Wuming's authority and Wuming's subordinate. Can you imagine the scene of waking up early in the morning and seeing an old man who was as good as Wuming being thrown by Wuming into a small mountain, causing the mountain to collapse and still come out intact? Although Wuming repaired the mountain with a prop that was suspected to be an authority, the impression he left on Erica could not be erased. In that case, let's go. Subsequently, Wuming directly used the portal. Although he had never been to the West Heaven Palace, Wuming had the photos of the West Heaven Palace provided by Huina. Wuming smoothly opened the portal to the West Heaven Palace. As soon as they stepped out of the portal, they saw a palace with stone monkey sculptures everywhere. Whether it was the eaves, corners, roadsides, or the central scenery, they were all stone monkey sculptures of different shapes. Because Wuming had already spread the news, MT Riguang was now in a state of closure. At this moment, there was no one there. Even one of the four major families in Japan that managed the West Heaven Palace, Kyohachi family, was not there. I have to say, this is really the place where the Monkey King lived. Erica commented. After all, the Monkey King was actually a monkey. Wuming felt the magic circle contained in it, and pointed to the place with the highest magic power. Let's go. The great sage, Heaven's Equal, is probably sealed there. Walking toward the West Heaven Palace, a small ancestral temple appeared. Walking into the ancestral temple, there were a lot of mahogany inside. A large number of strings were spread out on the mahogany. Those strings formed a special enchantment, which was the City of Horse Protector, and the spell that restricted Monkey King was the City of Horse Protector. Somewhere in the ancestral temple, a golden-haired monkey was lying on a pile of hay. Although this monkey was unusually handsome, it gave people a feeling of desolation. This ancestral temple was connected to the hidden world. The Monkey King was trapped in the cage of the hidden world. The Monkey King, who was inside the ancestral temple, could not leave this ancestral temple. According to the official history committee, the lattice gate of the ancestral temple could only weaken the seal of the City of Horse Protector by using a special method, then open the corridor of the hidden world, and then let the Monkey King go out to kill dragons and snakes, and then be brought back here by the City of Horse Protector. This is the Monkey King. Wuming now knew why Luo Hao was so persistent in coming to Japan to kill the great sage equaling heaven with his own hands. The great sage equaling heaven was actually in such a state. Even Wu Ming couldn't stand it anymore. Oh, aren't those little girls coming this time? It seems that they are not ordinary people. They're not only enemies, but also compatriots. Interesting. The golden monkey spoke human language, but no matter how he listened, Wu Ming could hear the voice of a walking corpse. Are you satisfied with the status quo, son Wu Ming? Wuming frowned and was a little upset. However, the golden monkey just turned over and lay down comfortably. What else can I do? I am restrained by the city of Horse Protector. I can't escape by myself. In that case, it's better to stay here. Anyway, there will be some little girls coming to play with me every once in a while. I won't be lonely. Although that was what he said, Wuming's loneliness could be heard by Wanli Guyoli. And those little girls should be the ones who weaken the city of Horse Protector. Is that so? What if I say I will liberate you today? The golden monkey, who had its back facing Wuming and others, flashed a light in its eyes. Chapter 206. Hey, I don't think it's good for you, little brother. Monkey smiled, but his body kept twisting, proving his excitement at the moment. I just need you to fight with me. That's all. If you win, you'll be free. If you lose, you will return to the mythical realm. Wuming looked at Monkey's eyes seriously. Interesting, for such a person who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth, I, old son, usually beat him, but Monkey turned over, jumped up, squatted, and looked at Wuming. I, old son, am still happy to accept your challenge. Then it's settled. Wuming stretched out a hand and began to gather magical power. Create green item, advanced item creation. A large amount of magical power began to be drawn from Wuming's body and gathered in Wuming's hand. The fluctuation of magical power gathered formed a magical whirlwind, raging inside the temple. However, the temple, including the peachwood inside, remained motionless. It seemed that the spell that not only trapped Monkey King, but also made Luo how return in defeat was indeed not fake. Then a lightning-shaped purple dagger appeared in Wuming's hand. Everyone just looked at it, and they could feel that the dagger was full of magical power. Rule Breaker! Wuming shouted the real name of the noble phantasm, and suddenly held the dagger and stabbed Monkey King. In an instant, light filled the entire temple. Ha 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 ha! I, old son, am back. A rather excited shout came out of the light. The light dissipated, and Monkey King, who was originally on the hay, was gone. There was a big hole in the roof of the temple. Obviously, Monkey King was liberated. Let's go and meet the great sage, heaven's equal. In the sky above the western temple, a golden-haired, monkey-like existence wearing a golden chain armor flew on a cloud. Wuming and several women stood in the courtyard, watching this scene. That, Lord Wuming, aren't you afraid that the great sage equaling heaven will escape? Wanli Guyuli raised his small hand and asked carefully. Of course not. He is the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong. He will not run away before he fights with the enemy. Wanli Guyuli's thoughts weren't wrong. After all, in myths and legends, Sun Wukong had escaped more than once. However, that was only when Sun Wukong was dealing with difficult enemies. For example, when he was still the great sage, heaven's equal, when he was fighting against Erlang Shun and the Azure Bull Demon's Vajra Trap, Sun Wukong would immediately retreat. That was his personality. He was not afraid of anything, and he had the ability to do so. However, Sun Wukong was not stupid. When faced with a difficult enemy, he would choose to retreat strategically. But, since he has already agreed to my challenge, then Sun Wukong will definitely not break his promise. This is morality. That's right. Little brother is right. Sun Wukong, who was flying in the air just now, appeared on the house next to Wuming. I haven't come out for a long time, so I just wanted to stretch my muscles. It seemed that Sun Wukong was indeed very excited. He was half squatting on the eaves, scratching his ears and cheeks with a smile on his face. Then, who is more comfortable now, the great sage equal to heaven's equal to you after you left the Five Fingers Mountain? Wuming was not in a hurry to fight with Sun Wukong, so he began to talk with Sun Wukong. Of course it's now. After I left the Five Fingers Mountain, I have to protect my master and go to the west to obtain the Buddhist scriptures. How can I be as happy as now? Sun Wukong said as he somersaulted twice on the eaves, feeling very uncomfortable. Is that so? Wuming pondered. Then are you the Monkey King, traveling monk's son, or the victorious fighting Buddha now? Ming asked a rather serious question. This was like summoning a servant. In a Holy Grail war, several sides of a heroic spirit might be summoned. It was just like summoning an old man and a young man with the same true name at different times. That was not impossible. Sun Wukong stopped moving and sat down. Now I, old Sun, am traveling monk Sunday. That's really a pity. I was looking forward to fighting with you in your heyday. Wu Ming had once seen a picture of 3 Sun Wukongs on it. The first one was the Monkey King who was still living a carefree life in a mountain of flowers and fruits. The second one was the traveling monk son who was rescued by Tang Sanzang and protected by his 2 junior brothers. The third one was the victorious fighting Buddha who had achieved great merit and was conferred the title by Gautama Buddha. The first Sun Wukong was laughing happily because he was playing with his monkeys. The second Sun Wukong started to frown because of the 81 difficulties. The third Sun Wukong became a Buddha and started to think about how to save the world. There was no need to explain the reason. In Wu Ming's opinion, the Sun Wukong who laughed the most happily was the strongest Sun Wukong. Wu Ming felt that to determine whether a person was strong or not, it did not depend on how many methods they had, but how strong their heart was. I didn't expect that a god of disobedience like you would understand the power of the heart. Sun Wukong looked at Wu Ming in surprise. After all, those who turned into gods of disobedience were those who rebelled against their fate and didn't follow the story that was arranged for them. The reason why I, old Sun, am here is to rebel against that Gautama Buddha. I, old Sun, want to be my own great sage. This might be the reason why Sun Wukong was wearing the golden armor. Sun Wukong took out something from his ear, and a shining golden weapon appeared in his hand. So, if you want to let me, old Sun, return to my legend, you have to ask if the Jingu Bang in my hand agrees or not. You have your own reasons, and I have my own reasons. Then, let's use martial arts to determine who is stronger. After saying that, Wu Ming took out a staff from the golden ripples. The undying king's nest of darkness, the land of the opposite sex, the home of absolute evil. Show your 10 layers of barriers and capture the enemies who dare to provoke me. Nazalic Underground Lake. Barrier. Looking at Wu Ming who slammed the staff on the ground, Sun Wukong immediately took action and summoned the legendary Somersault Cloud. With its amazing speed, Somersault Cloud could definitely escape from this barrier. However, Sun Wukong still underestimated the speed of Wu Ming's barrier, which was a little faster than Sun Wukong's Somersault Cloud. As a result, Sun Wukong, Wu Ming, Erica, Liliana, Huina, and Wan Ligu entered a large lake together. The 4th layer of Nazalic was a large lake that basically covered the entire 4th layer. Only a small part of the land was used for teleportation. The underground lake was filled with a large number of water monsters, all of which were hidden in the depths of the underground lake. Not only were there 4 level 85 summer primal water elemental, but there was also a level 95 dark skeletal dragonfish. Moreover, these monsters had the ability to hide. It could be said that as long as the enemy didn't get too close, they would die in the hands of these monsters. After casting Shield of Water Goblins on the 4 women, Wu Ming looked at Sun Wukong, who was floating in the air on a golden cloud. Let this be the final stop for you to return to your legend. Chapter 207. In the face of Wu Ming's bold words, Goku chuckled. Anyone could talk big. Can't you let me return to the myth? Let's see who's the real deal. After that, Goku rushed toward Wu Ming with his golden staff. Have a taste of my staff. Boom. Wu Ming held the meteor silver with both hands and began to clash with the legendary divine weapon, the golden cudgel. Bang, bang, bang. The sword and the staff kept colliding with each other, and sparks flew every time they collided. The physical impact of the two has already caused turbulent waves in the underground lake. At this moment, the monsters at the bottom of the lake were already confused by the battle between the two. However, Goku was not known for his martial arts, and soon, Goku fell into a disadvantage. As expected of steel like me, you have reached such a level with just your martial arts. You have to be careful. After saying that, Sun Wukong made a feint, turned into a breeze, and fled in all directions. Because each floor of Nazalic was quite large, Goku's escape could still affect Wuming. But after all, this was a fixed barrier, that is, there was a boundary, and Goku couldn't escape from here. However, there was no guarantee that Goku didn't have the means to break the fixed barrier. To deal with Goku, who turned into a breeze, Wuming began to chant, "Fear the one with wings. Evil people and powerful people are all afraid of me who have wings. My wings will bring you a curse. Evil people can't hit me." The pointer on the stone plate in Wuming's heart turned, and at 10 o'clock, a stone plate engraved with a phoenix spreading its wings lit up. Like a ray of light, Wuming turned around and flew away. In the distance, Goku appeared and looked at the light that was chasing him. Change! Sun Wukong plucked the hair on his head and blew gently. Countless Sun Wukongs that looked exactly like him appeared beside him. These Goku didn't say a word and swarmed toward Wuming with the golden staff. Wuming stopped and floated on the surface of the lake. He looked at the incoming Sun Wukong clone and chanted again. God says that humans are sinful. Instantly, the surface of the lake began to ripple. God says that humans need to be purified. The surface of the lake fluctuated violently. Thus, I shall bestow the torrential flood upon my body. Sun Wuming's many clones approached Wuming. In the name of the Supreme King, I will grant you an equal release. Wuming's body burst out with a huge amount of magic power, and a spiral water column rose from the lake's surface. After he finished chanting, Wuming turned the short needle on the stone plate in his heart to the 6 o'clock direction. The stone plate was engraved with a monstrous flood. Not good. He quickly summoned the somersault cloud and rushed to the edge of the inherent barrier, regardless of whether his doppelganger could affect Wuming. The torrential flood drowned all of Sun Wukong's clones. The immense power contained in the flood crushed all of them. Stay here for me. At this moment, Wuming, who had used the flood power, was like the god of the sea. He floated in the air, surrounded by many water columns. He didn't know where the water came from, but the super-high flood instantly surged and rushed towards Sun Wukong, who had entered the god of speed state. The flood drowned the only trace of land on the 4th level of Nazalic. The entire inherent barrier turned into a vast ocean. Like a huge rock smashing into an ant, the flood instantly caught up with Sun Wukong at the edge of the inherent barrier and drowned him in an instant. The edge of the inherent barrier began to crack, and the sound of it being unable to bear the weight was heard. Sun Wukong, who was submerged by the flood, had already been crushed. Wuming waved his hand, and a monkey hair emitting a bright golden light flew over. As expected, Sun Wukong is indeed the ever-changing Sun Wukong. The Sun Wukong who talked to me at the beginning was transformed from his monkey hair. This was one of the reasons why Wuming could easily destroy Sun Wukong. However, it's not like I didn't prepare for it. Wuming took out the staff of Ain's Wukong and removed the inherent barrier. Returning to the Western Heaven Palace, Wuming was greeted with the sight of the ruined walls after being swept by the storm. Closing his eyes and sensing for a moment, Wuming activated the Phoenix transformation and flew in a certain direction. At the foot of Mount Riguang, Erica and Liliana were fighting a monster with a pig head and a human body that looked like the wild boar of Welslana. Huina of the Qingqiu courtyard was fighting off many 2-meter-tall apes and protecting Yoli, who had no combat ability. On the other side, not far away, Neza, who had been killed by Silent, was fighting against a monster who looked similar to him and was holding a crescent spade in the form of an 8-armed, 3-headed Dharma god with green face and fangs. Lord Wuming. Wanli Guyuli didn't need to fight, so he was the first to notice Wuming. Yo Wuming, Neza also said like a child. However, with such a green face and fangs, it was really hard to look at him directly. The rest of the women also noticed Wuming's arrival, but because they had to pay attention to the enemy in front of them, they didn't have time to greet Wuming for the time being. Is this the combination of steel and snake that elder brother mentioned? It's really extraordinary. The monster with a crescent shovel commented first. Seriously, eldest senior brother. This guy isn't even a beauty. What's there to say? The two beauties in front of me are much more pleasing. Letting out a series of pig noises. The pig-headed man wiped his saliva and continued to fight with Erica and Liliana. Erica and Liliana, on the other hand, cast advanced magic as if they were disgusted by it. Standing behind Liliana, Erica raised her rapier and chanted a spell. Liliana, on the other hand, helped Erica resist the pigmen. Eli, Limasevicthani, my God, why did you abandon me? Lord, why did you abandon me? Lord, I call during the day, but you do not answer. I call at night, but you are silent. But you are the Holy One, baptized by many hymns of Israel. My bones decayed and collapsed. My heart turned into wax, and my body dissolved in it. Please abandon me in the dust of death. Dogs surround me, and I will be abused by evil doers. Become my strength. Give me help as soon as possible. Save my soul from the sword. Save me from the lion's teeth. Save me from the horn of the bison. Let me tell you the name of the Lord. Praise him in the center of the world. Convert and dedicate him. After the words were spoken, the surrounding air seemed to be frozen. Wuming speculated that if ordinary people with weak bodies were here, they might die instantly. Lend me your sword. As she spoke, Erica stabbed at the pig-headed monster. Beauty, you don't want to play with such a dangerous thing. The pig-headed monster retreated abruptly. It seemed that he was afraid of the words attached to Reinhardt. While Erica forced the pig-headed monster to retreat, Liliana also began to chant the words. Mountains of Gilboa, I pray for the rain of manna to fall upon thee. Offer the sacrifice that thirsty beasts yearn for. Give up yourself and become the shield of your warriors. Saul's shield, pour oil into it and dedicate yourself to this place. Jonathan's bow will never back down from the blood of the enemy. Saul's sword will never return to its scabbard until it devours the flesh of the brave. Until this body is defeated. Jonathan's bow, the weapon of the brave, who is as fast as a vulture and as strong as a lion. Run and crush your enemies. After Liliana finished chanting, the temperature in the air dropped. A blue longbow of the same size appeared behind Liliana. The longbow was attached to the Grandmaster silver-ranked weapon, and the silver-white military knife turned into a blue longbow. Liliana placed her right hand on the bowstring, and the blue light instantly turned into 4 arrows. He pulled the string to a full moon, and then, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. 4 blue arrows that suddenly enlarged on the way shot towards the pigmen. Because of Erica's interference, the pigmen did not dodge. So that is the spirit of Golgotha and the spirit of David. Chapter 208. Wuming landed beside Wanli Guyoli and Huina of the clear autumn courtyard. He raised his hand gently, and countless golden chains shot out of the golden ripples in the void, trapping the apes one by one. Lord Wuming, what are the Golgothas and David's language spirits that you mentioned? Wanli Guyoli might have the title of the highest level witch, but she was a newbie in magic, so she didn't know much about the highest level magic. They are the highest level language spirits in magic, the Golgothas and David's language spirits. Huina of the clear autumn courtyard, who had been living in seclusion in the mountains all year round, spoke up. After all, Huina was only cultivating in seclusion and wasn't isolated from the world, so she still knew about magic. That's right. The Golgotha's language spirit is the highest level magic. It's a language spirit with a strong curse effect. It's a hymn known as the Song of Calamity that Christ sang with all his might before his death on the Golgotha's execution ground. It said that ordinary people with weaker bodies will die instantly if they approach it. It's a language spirit that can bestow hatred and despair on the sword. The spirit of David's words, on the other hand, is the Song of the Bow. If the spirit of Golgotha that Erica uses is the spirit of hatred and despair, then the spirit of David's words is the spirit of sorrow that seeps into one's heart. It is the lament of the undead in the picture. It is also one of the magic spells of the highest level. Wu Ming looked at Erica and Liliana, who were working together to repel the pig-headed man. Most importantly, these two language spirits have the effect of harming God. Harming God. Wanli Yuli covered her mouth in astonishment. Don't be so surprised. Humans are such mystical creatures. It's not surprising that they can invent magic that harms God. Wu Ming couldn't help but chuckle at Yuli's reaction. Huina of the clear autumn courtyard added, "Besides, your Majesty forgot to mention that these two language spirits are very difficult to master. In history, only some great beings have mastered these two language spirits." Wu Ming also nodded. That's right. Both of these language spirits are magic spells that place a considerable burden on the body. If one is not careful, one's magic power will be sucked dry and one will die. Speaking of this, Wu Ming looked at Erica and Liliana with appreciation. Wu Ming estimated that even in Skahar's eyes, the two girls were quite excellent. At least Skahar could teach them to be on par with Kukulin. Huina, go help Erica and Liliana. No problem, Your Majesty. Huina smiled virtuously and ran towards the pork man with the black sky cloud sword. I feel like that sword is afraid of me. Wu Ming mumbled. Lord Wu Ming, what did you say? Yuli had a puzzled look on his face. It's nothing. By the way, these two are Sun Wukong's subordinate gods, Zhu Ganglai and Sha Wujing, right? Wu Ming asked Yuli. That's right. After you trapped the great sage equaling heavens in your inherent barrier, another great sage equaling heavens appeared and attacked us. It seemed that Wanli Guyoli was not used to the term inherent barrier. However, to be honest, there seemed to be no such thing in this world. Then, when Miss Erica, Miss Liliana, and Huina were unable to resist, Lord Neza, who claimed to be your authority, saved us. After Wanli Guyoli finished his narration, Wu Ming understood the cause and effect. After Sun Wukong escaped from the cage, he used the doppelganger technique in the sky. His original purpose was to let his doppelganger restrain Wu Ming while he went to find an earth vein to replenish his strength. However, he found that Wu Ming and Sun Wukong's doppelganger had entered the barrier. Therefore, he wanted to attack Erica and the others with the thought that one less enemy would be one less enemy. But in the end, Neza did not appear. Wu Ming did not expect that he would obtain authority similar to a familiar after killing Neza. However, when he recalled Neza's rolling eyes before he was killed by Wu Ming understood. After all, Neza appeared because he wanted to have fun and was attracted by Wu Ming's dragon and snake attributes. Therefore, in order to continue having fun on the earth, Neza gave Wu Ming the authority to summon himself. The god of disobedience had the ability to control and bestow authority to the person who killed them. Due to the issue of their dignity and personality, they would normally not bestow any useless authority to the godslayer. However, the authority that Luo Hao obtained that allowed the technology around her to rapidly develop was purely because Luo Hao had killed Saturnus. Saturnus was a god of harvest. It seemed that because he knew that his clone could not hold Wu Ming for a long time, he directly summoned Zhu Ganglai and Sha Wujing as his subordinate gods to resist Neza, Erica, and the others. He went to a spiritual mountain not far from Riguang Mountain and began to replenish his magical power. After all, Sun Wuming was a spiritual stone, which had a fate with the earth. It could be said that he was the steel that protected the dragon and snake, so he could also draw power from the earth. In this way, Neza, who was weakened because of his authority, faced Sha Wujing, who was weakened because he became Sun Wuming's subordinate god. Erica and Liliana faced Zhu Ganglai, who was also weakened because he became Sun Wuming's subordinate god. As for Wanli Guyoli and Huina of the Qingqiu courtyard, they were protected by Huina because Yuli did not know how to fight. As for those 2-meter-tall apes, they were ordinary humans under the Sunshine Mountain transformed by Sun Wukong's influence. Logically speaking, as long as the god of followers was not defeated, the target would recover. This was also the reason why Huina only repelled them and did not kill them. I see, Xiaoen. Can you restore them? Wu Ming asked. The golden chain wrapped around the apes made a sound. No problem, Wu Ming-sama. Huh. Wanli Guyuli was obviously taken aback. Then, the golden chain emitted a ray of light, so the entangled apes stopped struggling and all of them turned into humans. Then, Wu Ming instructed Enkidu to transport all these humans to a flat area. Then, Wu Ming looked at Wanli Guyuli, took off the dragon horn on his head, and handed it to her. Take Kalas with you first. If there is any danger, Kalas will protect you. Even if Kalas did not have the slightest offensive ability, Kalas had a series of powerful support skills such as hiding, teleportation, shield, and HP regeneration. Moreover, if she activated a super powerful enemy detection skill, she could detect the enemy in advance before they approached and give instructions for the next action. Are you going to look for the great sage, heaven's equal, Lord Wu Ming? Wanli Guyuli took Kalas and then asked worriedly. Yes, after all, I was the one who released him. It's my fault for not trapping him with an inherent barrier. I'll try my best to reduce the damage to the surroundings. After saying that, Wu Ming turned around and was about to leave. Please wait a moment, Yuli shouted. Wu Ming turned his head and looked at Yuli, who called out to him. Please come back safely, please. Looking at Yuli's rare serious face, Wu Ming said with a smile. Of course. Chapter 209. Wu Ming came to a hill. Wu Ming wasn't worried about Zhu Ganglai and Sha Wujing. Not to mention Neza, even Erica and Liliana, who had activated Golgotha and David's language spirit, were not ordinary people, not to mention Hui Na of the Qingxiu courtyard who held the heavenly cloud sword, because Wu Ming wasn't worried about them. Flying to the top of the hill, Wu Ming saw a golden monkey-shaped rock, which was constantly absorbing the power of the earth. At this time, Wu Ming directly took out a milky white holy spear from the golden ripples. It was originally the core branch of the world tree, which was taken down by Skaha, refined, and given to Wu Ming. After that, it merged with the forest divine beast Funbaba, which strengthened the holy spear a lot. It could be used as both a weapon and a weapon. It could be said that this spear has been with Wu Ming since Wu Ming became stronger. Wu Ming raised the holy spear over his shoulder and began to recite its true name. Its name was My Yggdrasil. Accompanied by countless holy light, green vines wrapped around the white holy spear and stabbed toward the rock. Boom! The top of the hill was directly blown up, and a large number of gravel continued to roll down the hill, and then it was caught by the giant vines that grew out from the foot of the hill. Zhu Ganglai and Sha Wujing, who were fighting, turned their heads slightly because of the explosion at Sun Wukong's location. Erica, the others, and Neza took the opportunity to attack fiercely. Zhu Ganglai, who was already at a disadvantage, was now being beaten until he screamed. Ah, you've gone too far. With a roar, Zhu Ganglai threw the rake in his hand, and a huge amount of magical power erupted from his body. In an instant, the original pig-headed man turned into a big wild boar. This time, it was really the same as Wellislana's authority, wild boar. Roar! The huge wild boar howled and rushed toward Erica and others. Fly boots of Hermes, wings of Artemis. Through the night, please grant me the privilege of flying in the heavenly Tao. Erica and Liliana chanted jump and fly to avoid the collision of the giant boar. On the other hand, clear autumn courtyards Hui Na stood in place and began to speak with a smile. O Kusanagi Cloud Sword, with my body as a sacrifice, I am willing to quell the violent spirit. Thousand leaves break, God's Yuan Mao can't surpass. Today my name is Pity. In an instant, the heavenly pursuit cloud sword in Hui Na's hand began to emit demonic power, and this demonic power wrapped around Hui Na's body. Hui Na's originally clear eyes had turned golden. Hui Na, who was entangled by the heavenly cloud sword's magic, unleashed a powerful force. With a wave of her sword, she blocked the giant boar that Zhu Ganglai had transformed into. What? How could this be possible? A mere human. Huh? This is the aura of the god of steel. Zhu Ganglai, who was blocked by Huina's attack, couldn't believe it. The girl in front of him blocked his attack with a human body, but when he saw Huina's aura, he understood. Since it's the same kind of steel as elder senior brother, there's no other way. Zhu Ganglai was stunned, and then as if he heard something, Zhu Ganglia's huge body instantly turned into a pool of mud and merged into the ground. In an instant, Huina's eyes reverted back to the pair of red amber-like eyes. She looked at her surroundings in a natural manner. Huh? Did Zhu Ganglai disappear? However, Erica, Liliana, and even Wanli Guyoli, who stood in the distance, looked at Huina with unfathomable eyes. On the other side, Sha Wujing, who was fighting with the same ferocious Neza, saw Zhu Ganglai merged into the ground, and he made a feint to avoid Neza. Since second senior brother chose to return to elder senior brother's body, then there's no need for me to exist. With that, Sha Wujing also turned into a pool of mud and seeped into the ground. Neza, who canceled his 8-armed, 3-headed avatar and returned to the appearance of an ordinary child, was excited. I made the right choice. I didn't expect to meet Sun Wukong and his 2 brothers. However, I'm a little tired. I better go back and take a rest first. After that, Neza turned into a bead and disappeared in the air. It could only be said that Neza was indeed a child. He wanted to sleep after playing. On the other side, on the top of the mountain, Wu Ming waved his hand, and a large amount of magical power was released, blowing away the smoke generated by his noble phantasm, revealing Sun Wukong, who was a little embarrassed. Not only the god of disobedience, but also the god slayer, both steel and snake. You really deserve to have several identities, little brother. Sun Wukong, who recovered his power, was not annoyed and began to praise Wu Ming. Wu Ming held Yggdrasil, which flew back automatically, and swung his spear. As expected of the great sage, heaven's equal. If your doppelganger hadn't used monkey fur to create a doppelganger, I wouldn't have been able to tell that the Sun Wukong I trapped in the enchantment was a fake. That's for sure. Old Sun, am very confident in my own abilities. Sun Wukong began to chuckle because of Wu Ming's praise. You're so fat, and you're panting. But, in an instant, Sun Wukong's face changed. I'm not alone, come on, my brothers. Sun Wukong shouted. In an instant, a pile of mud and a pool of mud appeared from the ground and was instantly absorbed by Sun Wukong. Ha 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 ha. Looking at Sun Wukong, who was laughing, Wu Ming frowned. He had devoured Zhu Ganglai and Sha Wujing, who were his subordinate gods. From there, he had recovered and replenished the energy he had lost when he was trapped in the soul world. Now, the Sun Wukong in front of Wu Ming could be said to be a Sun Wukong who was in his complete form without any power gaps. So that's how it is. You summoned your subordinate gods, Zhu Ganglai and Sha Wujing, just in case, to recover your own power. Sun Wukong picked up the golden staff and scratched his cheek. Not all of them. After all, my 2 brothers are very powerful helpers. I summoned them specifically to deal with your little women, but I didn't expect you to be so strong. You interrupted me before I could absorb the ley line to recover my power. Then, Sun Wukong became serious. Moreover, devouring sounds bad. After all, we 3 brothers are originally one. Another trinity? Wu Ming thought of Athena. She was also a trinity goddess. Although Kalis was not here with Wu Ming, it was not strange if one thought about it. Tang Sanzang had gone to the west alone to obtain the scriptures. However, because of the addition of mythical elements, he had 3 demon disciples to protect him. It was not strange for Sun Wukong, Zhu Ganglai, and Sha Wujing to be a trinity. Come on, my compatriots, my old enemies. Today is a battle of life and death. Take my staff first. Bang! Chapter 210. Without enemies, Erica and the others naturally became spectators. After all, the battle between the great sage, heaven's equal who had recovered his strength, and Wu Ming, who was at full strength, wasn't something they could participate in. Even Hui Na of the clear autumn yard, who could use divine reliance, wasn't qualified. Sun Wukong rode the somersault cloud and held the Jingu staff in his hand. He turned into a stream of light and constantly accelerated to attack Wu Ming. Wu Ming was not to be outdone. He directly activated the Phoenix transformation. He held Meteor Silver in his right hand and Yggdrasil in his left hand. He released magic from his feet and collided with Sun Wukong. Every time Wu Ming released Heaven Lock, Monkey King could dodge it with lightning speed. After a long time, Wu Ming simply stopped using Heaven Lock and started a pure hand-to-hand fight with Wu Ming. It could only be said that Monkey King was worthy of being the god of steel. His pure strength was much higher than Wu Ming's. If it weren't for the Lune Rune, Wu Ming wouldn't be able to compete with him. Every collision between the two could cause the nearby mountain to collapse, and every attack could cause a gust of wind to sweep around. Erica and others had to retreat a few kilometers away. At this moment, Wu Ming was already high. It had to be said that the great sage, Heaven's equal, was truly the great sage. Even if he had regained his power and appeared as the god of disobedience, his ability was still considerable as a pure god of steel. And Wu Ming, although his strength was weakened a lot because of his transformation from a dragon body to a human body, he was still the root dragon. His body was extremely strong, his magical power was almost unlimited, and he also had many noble phantoms, Lune Rune, and Yggdrasil, World Tree, magic buff. Wu Ming couldn't do anything to Wu Ming. The main reason was that both of them had lightning speed ability. Once one of them wanted to run away, the other couldn't stop him at all. However, Sun Wukong also had shortcoming. Of course, it was another shortcoming in addition to his poor swimming skills, and that was, rumor has it that the great sage, Heaven's equal, is not proficient in spells. He is used to using his Jingu Bang and his own transformation techniques to fight his enemies. Today, I will verify if this is true. That's right. No matter where it was in the myths, Sun Wukong didn't use any large-scale destructive spells. He basically just used the Jingu Bang. This meant that Sun Wukong was not proficient in magic. As he spoke, Wu Ming moved away from Wu Ming and stood opposite of him. Wu Ming loosened his hands, and the Meteor Silver and Yggdrasil floated beside him. Then, Wu Ming inserted his right hand into the void, and the golden ripples of the Dragonist relic appeared. Wu Ming took out a mysterious book from it. Nameless Spellbook, Level, EX Type, Human Relic Distance, 1 Maximum Catch. 1. It was a magic book that contained all the magic spells in a certain world, including the newly created magic spells. Under normal circumstances, this seemingly thick book with countless pages was only used by Wu Ming to read. However, the God Slayer could use the power of God, and some servants could also use their own relic. Wu Ming used this relic with another relic. Come and try my magic, great sage, Heaven's equal. Then golden ripples appeared behind Wu Ming, and the golden ripples spread behind him. In an instant, all the golden ripples were unfolded. Sun Wukong held the Jingu Bang and looked sideways slightly. There were at least thousands of golden ripples that surrounded the two of them. Each golden ripple began to gather magical power, and the magical power in each golden ripple began to increase. Gradually, the total amount of magical power had exceeded the magical power in Sun Wukong's body. So what if I'm not good at magic? And you, little brother, are bullying me too much? You think you can treat me like this just because you have a lot of magical weapons? Isn't that a bit disloyal? Although it was a bit frivolous, Sun Wukong was ready, but he was not too worried. With the current density of these golden ripples, he could easily pass through them with the somersault cloud. However, Wu Ming smiled slightly. Then come and try it, great sage, Heaven's equal. I call it godsend. In an instant, each golden ripple burst out with a bright light that ordinary people couldn't open their eyes, followed by the emergence of a powerful level 10 magic spell. The principle was that Wu Ming issued a search magic command to the Nameless Spellbook and injected a large amount of magical power to let the Nameless Spellbook activate these magic spells. Then, He connected the nameless spellbook to Dragonist to establish an exit in the outside world to release these magic spells. To put it simply, Dragonist had created a channel between the uninscribed book and space. Thousands of Tier 10 offensive spells cast by the uninscribed book would be released in an instant. The large-scale destructive power of the uninscribed book was comparable to the combined power of several dozen supreme spells. Wuming believed that even if the true body of the mythical gods came, they would not dare to take this move head-on. In other words, once hit by this move, even if Sun Wukong had life-saving means now, he would be badly injured even if he did not die. Sun Wukong also realized the fatal nature of this move and instantly rode the somersault cloud to a place where the golden ripples were spaced apart. However, Wuming was already prepared. Countless chains appeared from every golden ripple that was gathering magic power. Every chain that appeared from the golden ripple intertwined with the heaven lock closest to it. In an instant, a large net was formed. It was a net that was specifically used to attack gods. Sun Wukong immediately changed direction and flew down. After all, these golden ripples only covered Wuming and Sun Wukong from the surroundings and above. The ground was still empty. Don't even think about it. Fear the one with wings. Evil people and powerful people are all afraid of me who have wings. My wings will bring you curses. Evil people will not be able to hit me. In an instant, the long and short needles in Wuming's heart turned at the same time and pointed in the direction of 10 o'clock. Wuming's godlike speed in an instant surpassed Sun Wukong's godlike speed and flew in front of Sun Wukong, blocking his path. Get out of my way! Sun Wukong brandished the Jingu Bang and viciously smashed it at Wuming. I'm the strongest and the one who holds all victory in my hands. No matter if it is a human or a demon, I will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. Giants with unparalleled divine power, please give me your aid. In an instant, the long and short needles pointed in the direction of 2 o'clock. An indomitable giant appeared and fiercely hit Sun Wukong, instantly sending him back into the circle of golden ripples. At this time, the twilight of the gods, God's End, was completed. Chapter 211. Near Mount Riguang, Erica and the others looked strangely at the spot where there should have been a violent explosion. Just as Wuming set up the array and trapped the great sage, heaven's equal, Erica and the others had been retreating. At that time, the mana emitted by the thousands of golden ripples frightened Erica, who had nothing to fear, let alone the other girls. Besides, the mana was still rising. Just as the girls retreated to about a few kilometers away, the mana reached a critical saturation point and erupted. However, at this moment, there was no one in the place where Wuming and the thousands of golden ripples had disappeared completely. Erica and the others stood on a high ground and looked at the place where Wuming had been. What's going on? Why are Lord Wuming and the great sage, heaven's equal, gone? Wanli Gu Yuli hurriedly asked the other girls with a worried look. Don't worry, Yuli, his majesty will be fine. Huina comforted her and said firmly without any worry in her voice. Huina is right. Wuming is both the god of disobedience and the god slayer. If I'm not wrong, Wuming should have started his inherent enchantment the moment he used that move, Erica analyzed. I agree with Erica's opinion. The only thing that can explain this is our Lord's inherent barrier, Liliana said calmly, not panicking. However, the girls' personalities could also be seen from this. A few weeks ago, Wanli Guyoli was still a high school student living an ordinary life. Although she knew about magic and the god of disobedience, she didn't go deep into it. However, she was quite determined. Even when she was kidnapped by Marquis Wuming and learned that he was going to perform the summoning ritual for the god of disobedience, she still threatened the god slayer with suicide. After being rescued by Wuming and returned to Japan, she continued her high school life. If it were anyone else, they probably wouldn't have recovered so quickly. Erica and Liliana, as the two prodigies nurtured by the Black Cross and the Black Cross respectively, were already experienced grand knights at the young age of 16. It was enough to show that they had experienced a lot on the edge of life and death. Although Erica immediately pledged her loyalty to Wu Ming after seeing Wu Ming defeat and kill the two gods of disobedience, she wasn't frivolous. Erica was still famous. She was popular in all the magic associations in the world and couldn't be taken advantage of. It could be said that she had never been loyal to anyone. However, once Erica set on her goal, she would persevere. After being rescued by Wu Ming, she was a little curious about him and Wu Ming. After learning that Wu Ming's intention to protect humans, Wu Ming, as if she was a gamble, she had chosen to become his knight. It was the same for Liliana. Don't think that she pledged her loyalty to Wu Ming after Wu Ming asked her if she was loyal to him and Karen instigated her. If it wasn't someone Liliana approved of, no one could make Liliana pledge her loyalty. Liliana didn't pledge her loyalty to Marquis Wu Ming either. That was what she said at that time. Liliana Kranikar, on behalf of the Black Cross, is on your side. Liliana also chose to pledge her loyalty to Wu Ming because of Wu Ming's character and Erica's presence. She said that they didn't have a good relationship, but in fact, Liliana also knew that she had always said that she didn't have a good relationship with Erica, but that was only because they were in the same camp. If she still said that after pledging her loyalty to Wu Ming, it was purely a matter of arrogance. In short, it could be said that Erica and Liliana didn't choose the wrong person, and Wu Ming didn't fail to live up to their loyalty. As for Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard, this exceptionally simple girl came to Wu Ming's side because of her grandfather's order. In fact, Susanoo wanted Hui Na to be his eyes to understand and monitor Wu Ming. After all, in the eyes of God, such talents would appear in every era, and it didn't matter even if they were sacrificed. After Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard received the order to come to Wu Ming's side, she arranged herself to be one of Wu Ming's items. In terms of loyalty, Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard was now the most loyal person among Wu Ming's followers. Even if Hui Na was to attack Susanoo's life, Wu Ming believed that this pure girl would use the power of Susanoo's life to attack him. After all, under the order of the new master, she couldn't use the power given to her by the original master to attack the original master. This was different for Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard. After all, this girl was too naive. After being told by her grandfather that she was going to follow the king, she regarded herself as Wu Ming's item. It was like a high-tech robot. If the original master set the next master to be someone else, then she would completely obey the orders of a new master. It could only be said that she had gone astray. Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard simply believed that nothing would happen to Wu Ming. There was no reason. Believe in Wu Ming, Yoli. He's a rare god. Erica looked at Wanligu Yoli with a smile on her face. Looking at the confident faces of Erica, Liliana, and Hui Na, Wanligu Yoli seemed to understand something and smiled. Yes, I understand, Miss Erica. At this moment, a tiny crack appeared in the void, where Wu Ming had been standing but was now empty. Hui Na of the Qingqiu courtyard was the first to discover the crack. Look, Hui Na pointed at the empty void. Erica and Liliana immediately filled their eyes with magic power, and their eyesight was instantly improved to the extreme. Although they couldn't see, Wanligu Yuli crossed his hands and placed them before his chest, looking into the distance. Then the crack gradually enlarged until it was so big that Wanligu Yuli could see it clearly. Then the space shattered. Crack, crack, crack. The sound that sounded like a mirror breaking came to the girl's ears. In the shattered void, two figures emerged from it. Master Wu Ming. Wanligu Yuli yelled in excitement. Although he couldn't see clearly and could only see a vague outline, Wanligu Yuli still believed that it was Wu Ming. Great! Master Wu Ming is fine. Feeling reassured, Wanligu Yuli lowered his head slightly and put his palms together as if he were thanking the gods. In the distance, Wu Ming faced Sun Wu Ming with a quaint golden sword in the style of Huaxia. At this moment, both of them were in rags. You bastard! How dare you scheme against me? Sun Wu Ming said furiously. Chapter 2:12. Goku's complaint was not wrong at all. Wuming indeed plotted against Goku. At first, he bluffed with the twilight of the gods, godsend, and when he escaped, he released the heaven lock hidden in the golden ripples and formed a giant net. Then, when Sun Wukong escaped toward the gap below, he activated his double authority and used super speed to overtake Sun Wukong. Then he used the super giant to punch him into the twilight of the gods, godsend. Finally, he took out the staff of Anziergong and trapped the exploding twilight of the gods, godsend, together with Sun Wukong and Wuming himself in the fixed boundary. After all, an explosion of such a scale would definitely affect the nearby areas. Erica and the others who had the ability to protect themselves would be fine, but if something went wrong, the famous Sunshine Mountain would definitely be razed to the ground, including the scattered residents around. Goku's weakness mentioned by Wuming before was not that Goku was not proficient in magic, but that he was often deceived by schemes. This was a common occurrence in myths and legends. Sun Wukong was lured away by a demon using a trick, resulting in Tang Sanzang being captured. It was not unreasonable for the Trinity to be one. The reason why Zhu Ganglai and Sha Wujing were not strong and did not have much use in myths and legends was entirely because the three brothers were a trinity. All their abilities were concentrated on one person, so naturally they were weak. Although I'm not very proficient in schemes, I still know the principle of using my strength to attack the enemy's weakness. However, Godsend didn't kill you, which is really beyond my expectation. Wuming said with a serious face. "Oomph. Ignorant brat, standing on the dragon snake's side, you probably don't know about the ancient covenant." Goku said a word that Wuming had never heard of. It just so happens that I also have some doubts, so I'll explain it to you. In order to punish the demon king who killed the gods specially formulated a set of criteria. As long as certain conditions are met, the disobedient god can receive the blessing of heaven, earth, and stars to greatly increase his combat power. That is the ancient covenant, Goku said with a smug smile. However, only a few extremely authoritative and valiant steel can obtain the blessing of the ancient covenant. I, old son, belong to such a steel. Then, Goku showed a puzzled expression again. What I, old son, am puzzled about is the condition to activate the ancient covenant. You have to face multiple god slayers to use the ancient covenant. But I, old son, suddenly received a boost just now. Otherwise, even if I, old son, have the invincible Vajra body, I would have been tricked by you. An ancient covenant? If that's the case, then there must be a final king. Wuming thought. Maybe the name of my trick stimulated the gods. Wuming said half-jokingly. Who cares? I'm not a person who is short of money. Since I'm still alive, let's continue. God Slayer. Goku rushed over with his staff. Wu Ming, on the other hand, held his golden sword horizontally and rushed towards Sun Wukong. This time, Wu Ming started a normal hand-to-hand combat with Goku, and it was a hand-to-hand combat without using his authority and Lun's rune. Several attacks hit Wu Ming, and Wu Ming retreated slightly and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Ha, what's wrong, God Slayer? Are you at your wit's end? Why is it different from before? Goku laughed and mocked Wu Ming. However, Wu Ming didn't care and continued to fight with Goku. Wu Ming was waiting for an opportunity to hit Sun Wukong. Just now, Wu Ming and Goku met in the enchantment that caused the big explosion. At that time, the enchantment was almost broken. When Wu Ming knew that Goku was not dead, he directly activated his warrior avatar, summoned his golden sword, and used a spell. After that, Wu Ming and Goku came out of the enchantment. Goku was very careful now. After all, he fell for Wu Ming's trick once. Seeing that Wu Ming was so weak, he was on his guard. However, the great sage was destined to be unsuited for such delicate work. In an instant, Wu Ming found an opportunity. In an instant, Wu Ming sped up and stabbed the golden sword into Goku's abdomen. Goku's eyes narrowed, as if he sensed something. He hurriedly tried to dodge with the somersault cloud. However, at this time, the golden sword was still a bit away from Goku. Suddenly, Wuming's heaven lock moved. The heaven lock didn't bind Goku, but chose the hilt of the golden sword. In that instant, the golden sword was pushed by the heavenly lock, and it was this push that allowed the golden sword to pierce Sun Wukong's abdomen while he was riding the somersault cloud. Damn it! It's a weapon that can cut through godhood. Goku instantly realized that his somersault cloud couldn't be used. Die for me, old son. Although Wuming had stabbed Goku, Wuming was currently in a defenseless state. Goku raised his staff and attacked Wuming. However, beep, beep, beep. Wuming's short needle pointed to the 9 o'clock direction. The stone plate depicting a god covered in lightning instantly lit up. Wuming transformed into a bolt of lightning and instantly teleported behind Goku. Then he began to chant, "Lightning, lightning, lightning. I am the conqueror who can defeat 1,000 with white, 10,000 with 1,000, and 10,000 with 10,000. Now, for me, who is standing on the side of justice, please shine brightly and bestow me with divine power. I am the one who will crush all enemies and enmity between humans and demons." The short needle dimmed, and the long needle turned to the 9 o'clock direction, and the god of thunder incarnation was activated. At this moment, Wuming's eyes, nose, and ears were full of violent lightning, and his whole body was also exuding high-energy lightning. Electric sparks were constantly bursting and dancing. At this moment, Wuming was like the god of thunder. Sure enough, Goku, you do have the courage of steel, but you lack wisdom. Damn God Slayer, you plotted against me again. Goku roared furiously. Wuming deliberately did not reveal his ability in order to let the somersault cloud on the golden sword take effect. The golden sword's spirit that Wuming prepared after knowing that Goku was not dead was the somersault cloud spirit. If he didn't seal the somersault cloud, he wouldn't be able to catch Goku. As for the issue of double authority, that was Wuming's new ability. When two needles illuminated at the same time, pointed to the same stone plate, the stone plate would erupt with double or more power. However, after using it, there would be a cool-down period. This was also the reason why Silent Cry didn't use Double Phoenix. In order to get rid of Goku as soon as possible, Wuming chose to use the Golden Sword Spirit to seal Goku's somersault cloud. Now, without the somersault cloud, Goku was a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. With my spirit, let the justice of the world appear. This spell is powerful and eloquent. It is the sword of wisdom that greets victory. Chapter 213. You were originally a spiritual stone used by Nuwa when she mended the heavens. Some say that you were formed from a spiritual stone created by heaven and earth. You absorbed the sun, moon, yin, and yang, and obtained the fortune of heaven and earth. You found the spiritual Fongsun Mountain and worshipped Patriarch Bodhi. You learned a lot of skills, wreaked havoc in the Dragon Palace, stole the sea-steadying divine needle, barged into the underworld, destroyed the Book of Life and Death, went to the Heavenly Palace, and caused chaos in the Heavenly Court. At this moment, the words on the sword of spiritual speech changed. Wuming continued, "Because you were dissatisfied with the position of Horse Protector and disobeyed the Heavenly Court's rules, you descended to the mortal world several times. After being ordered by the Heavenly Court, you received the title of Great Sage, Heaven's Equal. You also fought with the Heavenly Court because you didn't have a spot in the Feast of Immortality. The Heavenly Court was helpless. At this moment, the golden swords gradually increased and surrounded Sun Wukong. The swords were entwined with the curse of Horse Protector. Shut up for me, old son." Sun Wukong attacked the golden sword array as Wu Ming continued to speak. After being captured by the Heavenly Court, you cultivated a pair of fiery golden eyes in the alchemy cauldron and caused havoc in the Heavenly Court again. Then you were stopped by Gautama Buddha in the Western Paradise. After losing a bet with him, you were suppressed under the Five-Finger Mountain. This shows that you failed in scheming. The golden swords kept stabbing at Sun Wukong and began to cut his godhood. You were suppressed for 500 years. Later, you received guidance from Bodhisattva. You were rescued by Tang Sanzang and protected in his quest for the Buddhist scriptures. After experiencing 81 disasters, you became the victorious fighting Buddha of Buddhism. You changed from a Taoist guardian god to a Buddhist guardian god. At this moment, Sun Wukong was covered in wounds and blood. Now, Sun Wukong's 72 transformations, Dharma form, fiery golden eyes, somersault cloud, and other abilities were all sealed. Wu Ming continued, "And you, the great sage, heaven's equal, Sun Wukong, became the victorious fighting Buddha who obeyed Gautama Buddha's orders." "Ah, shut up for me, old son." Sun Wukong was completely enraged. He was a person filled with freedom. From his series of actions in the heavenly court, it could be seen that the reason why the great sage equal to heaven, Sun Wukong, appeared in the world was to rebel against his own fate and his unfree life. Every disobedient god had a disobedient side. It had to be said that Wu Ming really admired the great sage, heaven's equal. However, in the end, the great sage, heaven's equal's edges were smoothed out, and he became the kind, victorious fighting Buddha. Great sage returned to the myths. Wu Ming raised the golden sword, and the lightning wrapped around it. Then, the surrounding golden swords all gathered around Wu Ming's sword, forming a giant lightning ancient golden sword. Then, Wu Ming slashed at Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong raised the Jingu Bang and blocked the powerful strike. However, Kacha, the golden cudgel broke into two pieces, and the golden sword slashed Sun Wukong's body. Ah! Looking at the golden hooped staff that had been broken into two pieces, Wu Ming finally understood Alice's words. The golden ape was sealed in the palace of Eastern Light. The golden heavenly pillar, the invisible seraphic speed, and the delusion breaker I were attached to it. He was the follower of the overlord of mountains and seas. He was the conqueror of all, the ever-changing lord of dragons and snakes. Thus, he was resurrected by the forbidden dagger held by the steel dragon and died by the steel dragon's hands. The golden heavenly pillar was the Jingu Bang. The seraphic speed was the somersault cloud. The delusion breaker I was the fiery golden eyes. The overlords of mountains and seas were Zhu Ganglai and Sha Wujing. The forbidden dagger was the talisman that could break all spells, and the steel dragon was me. Clenching the giant golden lightning sword in his hand, Wu Ming looked at the dying Monkey King. "You've won this time, Godslayer. I, old son, have lost your trick again. I hope you can have a good fight with me next time." After all, Wu Ming was in a hurry to send the great sage, heaven's equal, back to the myths, so he used a trick. "If we meet again, I will, great sage, heaven's equal." Wu Ming said the last four words very seriously. Pucci, the newly liberated great sage, heaven's equal, was sent back to the myths. Deactivating the avatars of the thunder god and the warrior, Wu Ming flew somewhere unhurriedly, but not to where Erica and the rest of them were. After landing, Wu Ming spoke without looking back. "You're here, Guinevere, Lancelot." Yes, Wu Ming's power did not increase after killing the great sage, which was the same as when Wu Ming killed Perseus, which meant that the great sage, heaven's power, was absorbed by the arrowhead disc. Moreover, even if the great sage, heaven's equals power, was not absorbed by the arrowhead disc, Wu Ming could guess Guinevere's arrival. Guinevere, who was in pursuit of the strongest steel, couldn't let go of any steel. Even Perseus, who was not a pure steel, Guinevere didn't let him go. As for the matter of Neza, it could only be said to be a coincidence. After all, Guinevere did not need to be around Wu Ming all the time, and Wu Ming's encounter with Neza was an accident, so Neza became Wu Ming's power. After feeling the changes in the surrounding magical power, Wu Ming came to a small forest. As expected of the villa, you found out my hiding place so quickly. Guinevere's voice came from behind Wu Ming. Wu Ming turned his head. Lancelot rode a white horse without saying a word, and the petite woman sitting in front of him was Guinevere. After Wu Ming learned about Guinevere, he felt sorry for the girl. She forgot everything about her master, but she had to wake him up. But on the way to find her master, she fell in love with the Villo, causing the plan to use King Arthur to summon the last king to fail, and she died. Even if she could be reincarnated, it would be too cruel. I say, do you want to wake up the last king together? Wooming asked a question that shocked Guinevere and Lancelot. Eh, eh, Guinevere exclaimed. After about 5 minutes, Wooming left the small forest. Only the three of them knew what Wooming, Guinevere, and Lancelot talked about. Guinevere and Lancelot stood in place, looking at Wooming in the distance. That's great, uncle. This way, the villa will be our companion. Guinevere smiled sweetly. Lancelot did not say anything and just waited quietly. It's time to go, my beloved daughter. There are other godslayers approaching, Lancelot reminded. Is it that lord? Guinevere asked with some weariness. Lancelot nodded. Since it's that lord, let's leave first. After all, it'll be troublesome if we get entangled. After that, Lancelot rode his white horse out of the small forest. A moment later, a bolt of lightning came to the small forest, and, after checking the small forest, it turned into a bolt of lightning and left. Chapter 214. After Wooming parted ways with Guinevere and Lancelot, he found Erica and the others who were looking for him. Lord Wooming, Wanli Guyuli shouted excitedly. Thank you for everything you've done for Japan. As he spoke, Wanli Guyuli bowed. Don't mention it. If you must say, I'm partly responsible for Luo Hao's recent visit to Japan. Wooming was right. Wooming had asked Luo Hao about it. Luo Hao had originally planned to come later. If it were not for the relationship between Wooming and Luo Hao would not have decided to bring forward her visit. No matter what, you've saved Japan. I'm truly grateful. When he saw this, Wooming could only accept it. Usually, in such a situation, one would have to devote oneself to him. Erica had a sly smile on her face. Devote oneself to him? Liliana cried out in surprise. Devote oneself to him. Clear autumn courtyards, Hui Na blushed slightly. Why you offering yourself to me? Wanli Guyoli's face instantly turned red as he stuttered and shouted. Why you? You perverted devil king. As expected, all devil kings are brutal. Lord Wooming, as a rare virtuous king, you must watch your actions. Wanli Guyoli started lecturing Wooming. Wooming glanced at Erica rather helplessly. You got a bad taste, Erica. Is that so? Thank you for the compliment. Erica's face was filled with pride. Although I don't want to disturb you, but Lord Cultmaster is here. A casual and frivolous voice was heard. Wooming glanced at Kaneji Winterhorse, who was standing at the side. Wooming had noticed Kaneji Winterhorse when he arrived. However, due to the atmosphere at the time, Wooming did not point it out. Now, it seemed that Erica and the others did not notice this representative of the History Editing Committee. It could only be said that the other party was not simple. He had to be at least a Grand Knight. That Secmaster came so quickly? Liliana was a little surprised. After all, Lu Yinghua had just said that Luo Hao was coming this morning, and she had arrived on the same day. Luo Hao has divine feet. If I'm not wrong, Luo Hao came here on foot. He didn't ride any vehicle, right? Speaking of me, Wooming looked at the winter horse. As expected of the king of disobedience. You're right. That hierarch did not ride on any means of transportation. He just appeared out of nowhere. May I ask if God's limbs is Lord Hierarch's power? Wanli Guyuli asked. If I'm not wrong, it should be Chinese Kung Fu, Erica said. That's right. The so-called divine celerity is actually the use of Huaxia's Kung Fu when it's practiced to the extreme and can travel thousands of miles in a day. To put it simply, it's teleportation. So powerful. Wanli Guyuli covered her mouth in disbelief. Well, after all, there are also advanced magic such as teleportation, flight, and so on in magic. Yuli will be fine as long as she comes into contact with them more. Huina smiled at Wanli Guyoli and comforted her. There's no time to lose. Let's go and meet Luo Hao, Wooming said. That's right. Otherwise, the sect leader will really tear down Japan. Please. Kanaji Winter Horse looked very embarrassed. He clasped his hands and begged. However, no matter how one looked at it, the Winter Horse gave off a leisurely and lazy aura. Let's go. After Wu Ming finished speaking, Erica and the others went ahead and got into the car prepared by the Winter Horse. Meanwhile, Wu Ming and the Winter Horse got into the car behind. Originally, Huina wanted to sit with Wu Ming. However, Erica clearly saw through Wu Ming's intention and pulled the girls into the car in front. In the car, the Winter Horse sat in the driver's seat, Wu Ming sat in the back, and a man in a suit with short hair sat in the front passenger seat. He had a neutral appearance. Thank you for crusading against the great sage, heaven's equal, Lord King of disobedience. After the car started, the woman spoke. To be honest, when Wu Ming first got into the car, he was not sure if this was a woman. After she spoke, Wu Ming combined the few characteristics that he observed that she did not have an Adam's apple and slightly protruding chest. Only then did he confirm that this was a woman. She had short black hair, simple and unadorned black-rimmed eyes, a beautiful face, and an otherworldly temperament. There is not a trace of fat on her slender body. Coupled with the men's suit, those who did not know her would think that she was a beautiful young man who came out of nowhere. You must be Saya Gong Xian, the head of the Tokyo branch of the Japan History Redaction Committee. Wu Ming revealed her true identity. Saya Gong Xian came from the Saya Gong family, one of the 4 major magician families in Japan. She was the same as Huina, who came from the Kyukiin house. She was also the highest-ranking witch among the witches. I didn't expect Lord King of Disobedience to know me. It's a great honor. Saya Gong Xian said with a smile. Don't play around with me. Susanoo is your boss, right? The Winter Horse was obviously stunned when he heard this, but he quickly reacted. However, Wu Ming still caught this scene. Yes, Lord Yulaogong is indeed my boss. He is also the founder of the Japan History Redaction Committee. Saya Gong Xian didn't hide anything and said something that shocked everyone. However, Wu Ming was not surprised. I don't know how Wu Ming found out about this. Saya Gong Xian asked. Wu Ming, on the other hand, laughed in boredom. The Jizuka family is the family that manages the West Heaven Palace. When the dragon snake was still alive, they knew and could use the witches to weaken the seal of the great sage equaling heaven. The great sage equaling heaven was ordered by Susanoo to be brought to Japan. These two are obviously related. Wu Ming glanced at the sweating Winter Horse and continued. Huina was born in the Sakura courtyard, and she called Kusasaka Onami grandfather. From this, it can be seen that the other 3 families are related to Kususaka Onami. Although that guy said that he graduated, with his personality, it's impossible for him to not cause trouble. But there is one thing I didn't guess. I only thought that Susanoo was the one who supported the establishment of the Japan History Redaction Committee. I didn't expect him to be the one who established the committee. After Wu Ming finished, Saya Gong Xian clapped her hands. As expected of someone who can suppress Lord Yulaogong. I didn't expect Wu Ming Sama to be so smart. Wu Ming did not comment on Saya Gong Xian's flattery. He just smiled and did not comment on Saya Gong Xian's praise. Since I already know so much, it would be wrong if I still can't figure it out. After all, the fact that Huina called Susanoo as her grandfather was enough to know that he was related to the 4 major families. The Japan History Redaction Committee was basically made up of the 4 major families. Therefore, there was no need to think about anything else. So, are you here to pledge allegiance to me, Saya Gong Xian? Chapter 215. This question made Kaneko Winter Horse break out in cold sweat again. Although he knew some things, he didn't know that much. Now that he was sandwiched between 2 big shots, it wasn't a good thing. Yes, I am here to pledge my allegiance to Wu Ming Saya. Saya Miyazaki didn't beat around the bush. At this moment, Kaneko Winter Horse felt that he couldn't break out in cold sweat anymore. You are so sure that you chose me. Aren't you afraid that Susanoo will come after you? Wu Ming said casually. I am a smart woman, and a woman who likes to gamble, but I'm still a woman who doesn't want to give up. Wuming understood what Saya Miyazaki meant. She also wanted to gamble. Just like to Erika, she wanted to bet on Wuming. If she succeeded, she would be second only to one person. Or maybe it was because of Wuming's personality that he didn't like to be in charge. Simply put, she would be second only to one person. However, if she lost, death would be considered a light punishment. Speaking of which, I have nothing to do with Susanoo. Logically speaking, even if you pledge your allegiance to me, you won't get anything. Wuming closed his eyes and leaned back in the back seat. As a king, you still lack a piece of land. Europe has the King of Swords and Marquis Warband. Mainland China has the Pope. America has the superhero John Pluto Smith. Madame Aisha's whereabouts are unknown, and the Black Prince Eric is in conflict with the British forces. Currently, Japan is the easiest place for you to conquer. Saya Miyazaki was right. The senior officials of Japan's history editing committee naturally knew that their leader was the god of disobedience. Even if they changed their leader, they wouldn't have any conflict, let alone a more powerful leader. With Saya Miyazaki around, one silent wonder announces that Japan is his territory, and then defeats or even kills Susanoo. Those higher-ups will definitely be obedient, unlike Britain's Black Prince Eric, who was resisted by his own forces. Moreover, the last king you seek is in Japan. After conquering Japan, you won't need anyone to interfere with what you do in your own territory, including the entry of other kings. Sayaka Gong Xian was right. Becoming the king of Japan would be a great help to Wuming's next move. Just like Luo Haohu came to Japan, if this land was Wuming's territory, then Luo Hao wouldn't have come uninvited. In Luo Hao's opinion, the dignity of a king was inviolable. Therefore, Luo Hao would not casually trespass into another king's territory. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Wuming smiled. Then what's in it for you? Saya Gong Xian pushed up her glasses and said without hesitation, I don't want to be under others. You are the god of disobedience. Moreover, I have not pledged my loyalty to the history editing committee. Sayaka Gong Xian's meaning was clear. Susanoo won't let Sayaka Gong Xian become the boss, but Wuming will. This is because Wuming doesn't have any requirements for these mundane matters. Furthermore, as the god of disobedience, it's normal for him to be under Wuming. Once Wuming succeeds, Sayaka Gong Xian will become the sole ruler of Japan's magic world, and Wuming will be the god. Then I will accept your allegiance, Sayaka Gong Xian. Thank you, Wuming-sama. In the future, I will make sure that your decision is correct. Then, I look forward to working with you. Yes, I look forward to working with you. Just like that, the fate of Japan was decided in these two cars. At the same time, there was also a Mr. Gansu whose cold sweat had dried up. In Wuming's villa, the interior of the main hall had been renovated into an antique style. Luo Hao sat on a futon with his eyes closed, waiting quietly. Lu Yinghua stood behind Luo Hao. His body was tense as he looked ahead with malice. Alice sat elegantly in front of Luo Hao. She smiled but didn't say a word. When Wuming and the others arrived outside the villa, they weren't in a hurry to go in. Sayaka Gong Xian got off halfway because she still had something to deal with. Therefore, she wasn't here. After getting off the car, Gansu Doma spoke. Lord Wuming, I won't be going in. Wuming naturally knew why Gansu Doma didn't want to go in. Luo Hao had set the rules. Those who saw his face would have their eyes gouged out, and those who heard his voice would have their ears destroyed. That's right, it was that cruel. Huh, is it that scary? Wanli Guyoli was obviously frightened. Wanli Guyoli was already afraid of the God Slayer, let alone Luo Hao, who was as cruel as Marquis Warband. It's because Lord Bishop's disciple told us that Lord Bishop has arrived at Lord Wuming's villa. That's why we came back to look for you, Gansu Doma explained. In other words, Lord Bishop trespassed on private property? Wuming joked. Only you, Wuming, would dare to say that. Erika was a little helpless. Gansu Doma smiled awkwardly. Erika was indeed right. I wonder how Alice is doing. Wuming thought of Alice, who was still in the villa. Then, a group of people walked into the villa. As soon as they entered, Wu Ming saw a rather awkward scene. Alice and Luo Hao sat opposite each other, while Lu Yinghua stood behind Luo Hao. They didn't say anything. As the door opened, Luo Hao opened his eyes and looked at Wu Ming. Alice and Lu Yinghua also looked at Wu Ming. "Dear, you're back," Alice said elegantly. She stood up and walked weakly to Wu Ming's side and hugged his arm. Everyone was confused. "Wu Ming, even if I respect you, you can't snatch my prey." Before the others could speak, Luo Hao glared and roared. "It's like this, Luo Hao. I've said it before. I allow you to call me Green Lotus." Instantly, the surrounding women looked at Wu Ming with strange expressions. "Let's talk outside. If not, we'll fight." "All right. Ever since I fought with you, I've been itching for a fight. Today is a good time to spar." With that, Luo Hao charged at Wu Ming. Wu Ming took out the staff of Ain's Ergong and activated the inherent barrier, enveloping himself and Luo Hao, leaving the confused women and Lu Yinghua in the wind. Inside the inherent barrier, the sixth layer of the forest, Wu Ming activated Phoenix and Giant and kept fighting with Luo Hao. Luo Hao used 12 Flying Phoenix Divine Palms and Wu Ming Vajra Divine Art. With the combination of skill and strength, she successfully competed with Wu Ming's speed and strength. Yes, she wanted to compete. Luo Hao, who was proficient in various martial arts, created her own skills. 12 Flying Phoenix Divine Palms, coupled with Luo Hao's authority and Vajra Divine Art. Luo Hao's strength was like adding wings to a tiger. Wu Ming, on the other hand, was weaker than Luo Hao in terms of punching and kicking, so Wu Ming used speed. It should be known that there was nothing in the world that could not be defeated except speed. The speed of the Phoenix Incarnation combined with the strength of the Giant Incarnation made it so that Wu Ming did not need to pay attention to technique. Just relying on speed and strength, he was able to fight evenly with Luo Hao. "It seems that you hid your strength last time, Wu Ming." Chapter 216. "After all, I only used martial arts to compete with you last time," Wu Ming explained as he flashed through the woods around Luo Hao. "So, are you going to use only your authority this time?" Luo Hao observed the surroundings vigilantly. Luo Hao, who had reached the peak of martial arts, could naturally capture objects moving at lightning speed. However, even though he could catch it, Luo Hao didn't dare to keep up with that speed. Therefore, Luo Hao became the defensive side. "I do have that intention. Is that so? It seems that you are underestimating me, Luo Hao, the king of disobedience." In an instant, Luo Hao burst out with powerful magic. "The heavens are clear, the earth is peaceful, and the people are peaceful." An invisible force surged. "War in the south, death in the north, the dead in the wild cannot be buried, and the crows can be eaten. For me, the crows can be eaten, and for Ku Hao." Golden particles attached to this invisible force. Boom! The ground began to be destroyed by the golden particles with Luo Hao as the center. As Luo Hao chanted, the golden particles moved faster and instantly reached Wu Ming. As expected of someone who had reached the peak of martial arts, Luo Hao predicted Wu Ming's location and instantly hit Wu Ming. Bang! Wu Ming was sent flying and broke several trees. Smoke and dust filled the air. Wu Ming was forced out of his lightning speed mode. Huff! A giant phantom waved its hand and dispersed the smoke and dust. As expected of the king of martial arts. "Even if you're not as fast as me, you're still better in terms of technique." Looking at Wu Ming, who acted as if nothing had happened, Luo Hao said, "Wu Ming, you are still intact after being hit by the combination of my two authorities. You have a right to look down on me, Luo Hao. That's why I said I looked down on you." Wu Ming did not understand why Luo Hao, who was fine a moment ago, suddenly flipped out. He did not mean to look down on Luo Hao. "It's useless to say more. Take this. Brilliant Yang Yang, brilliant lightning, heavenly spirit, earthly spirit, Taishang Laojuan's urgent decree. The dead in the wild will not be buried. How can rotten flesh escape? The sound of water is intense. The reeds are indistinct. The valiant horsemen fight to the death. The poor horses wander about. As the two lines of the poem were recited, a huge golden particle palm struck towards Wu Ming using the 12 flying phoenix divine palms. Thou hast violated the contract and brought evil to the world. The Lord's day. The sinner must be punished. Their spines were crushed, their tendons, bones, hair, and brains were dug out, and their blood and mud were trampled on. If I am one who cannot approach the darkness, then I will follow the Lord's words and destroy thee. In an instant, Wu Ming's golden giant phantom turned red, like an evil spirit that had returned from purgatory. It was ferocious and dazzling, emitting waves of annihilation aura. Boom! The giant's dark red palm and the huge golden palm collided. The destructive aura and the golden particles reacted strongly, causing a dazzling light. It was as if a nuclear bomb had exploded. With Wu Ming and Luo Hao at the center, the impact of the light destroyed the surrounding forest. When the destructive light disappeared, what appeared in front of Wu Ming and Luo Hao was a scorched wilderness. Wu Ming and Luo Hao were still in the same position as before the explosion. However, the giant phantom and the golden palm had disappeared. Wu Ming was still fine as he was basically unharmed. As for Luo Hao, her clothes were slightly tattered, revealing part of her body. Wu Ming looked at Luo Hao, whose clothes were slightly tattered, and asked kindly, "Do you still want to fight?" When Luo Hao heard this, she exploded again. "Before I was a woman, I was a king, a disobedient king. You took advantage of the fact that we've been honest before and humiliated me several times. Today, it's either you die or I live." With that, Luo Hao did not care about her clothes and activated her authority again. However, at this moment, Luo Hao sensed an enemy behind her. "Let me sleep for a while." Wu Ming's voice came from behind Luo Hao. Then, Luo Hao fell into a deep sleep. Before her delicate body fell to the ground, Wu Ming hugged her with his big hands. "Really, with such a cute face, why is your temper so weird?" Wu Ming hugged Luo Hao and carefully looked at Luo Hao's face. Then, Wu Ming looked at Wu Ming standing in the distance. "Okay, you come back too." Wu Ming, in the distance, shrugged, then turned into a black shadow and merged into Wu Ming's body. This was one of Wu Ming's avatars, dependents. When Wu Ming first came into contact with this authority, he thought that dependents were summoned creatures, but he found out that dependents were copies of himself and summoned. Although Wu Ming said, "Come back," the avatars did not have their own consciousness. All of the avatar's consciousness was Wu Ming, and Wu Ming could receive all of the avatar's senses, and the avatars also had all of Wu Ming's abilities. Simply put, it was like a person playing with several computers, or a person's consciousness had several bodies. If one had to say, it was schizophrenia. The upper limit of the avatars was about 12, and the strength of the avatars was inversely proportional to the number of avatars. One avatar's strength was 100% of the original bodies. Two avatars were 50% of the original body's strength. Four avatars were 25% of the original body's strength, and so on. In other words, the fewer the avatars, the stronger the avatars. Wu Ming used this authority during the big explosion, leaving the avatars where they were, and then used the speed of the phoenix to come behind Luo Hao. Wu Ming suppressed his magic and breath. Because of the magic chaos after the explosion, Luo Hao did not notice Wu Ming until Wu Ming moved. At that time, Luo Hao wanted to turn back, but Wu Ming directly used magic to shock her brain, causing her to faint. For ordinary people, directly using magic to shock the brain may cause irreversible damage, but should be fine for the God-Slayer. After all, she is a God-Slayer. It would be bad if the means are too light to cause her to faint. Wu Ming comforted himself. Last time, Salvatore was the same. After being hit by Wu Ming, he only fainted. "Forget it, let's go out first." With his mind, the staff of Anzavolgan was spat out from the golden ripples and floated beside Wu Ming. Wu Ming held Luo Hao with both hands and said to Kalas on his head, "Please, Kalas." "Yes, master." Kalas was originally in the hands of Wanli Guyoli, But because Wanli Guyoli was no longer in danger, Kalis took the initiative to leave Wanli Guyoli and found Wuming on her own. Wanli Guyoli seemed to have forgotten about Kalis. If Kalis had not returned to Wuming's hands, and Wuming did not ask Wanli Guyoli anymore, Wanli Guyoli would probably be in a panic now. Wuming smiled and shook his head and said casually, "Let's go out and flirt with her." Inherent enchantment. Contact. Kalis entered the command into the staff of Anzavolgan. After entering the command, the staff of Anzavolgan began to glow, and the inherent enchantment began to lift. Soon, Wuming returned to the villa hall with Luo Hao in his arms. Chapter 217. Previously, after Wuming and Luo Hao entered the inherent barrier, Lu Yinghua looked at Alice and the others with an ugly and hostile expression on his face. However, Alice and the others ignored him. "Your Highness Alice, what happened just now?" Liliana asked with a red face. Naturally, the question she asked was about the deer. However, Alice, who was teasing her, replied in this way. "Allah, what's wrong with that? Master Wu Ming and I have even done this and that kind of thing," Alice said with a shy face and a coquettish voice. That. Liliana, Wanli Guyoli, and Clear Autumn Courtyard Huina blushed. Is that so? Have you and my master reached that stage?" This was Liliana, who pretended to be serious, but her face was as red as a monkey's butt. It's really too impure." This was Wanli Guyoli, who could not accept the sudden outburst. "I wonder if it's comfortable." This was Clear Autumn Courtyard Huina, who was blushing but curious. How can you, Huina? You can't think about these things?" Wanli Guyoli held Huina's hands worriedly and admonished her. "I say, your reactions are too exaggerated." Erica looked at the three innocent girls and Alice, who was snickering at the side with a headache. "I say, it's about time for you to settle down." Lu Yinghua said angrily as if he could not take it anymore. When Alice saw this, she returned to her seat with a smile. "What? Don't the disciple of the cult master have confidence in her master?" Lu Yinghua frowned and took a deep breath. "Of course, I have confidence in my master's words. However, that king of disobedience is no ordinary king. Also, can you not talk to me? You're looking at us with such hostility. Do you want to fight?" Erica stood up and provoked. Since he came in, Lu Yinghua had been looking at them with hostile eyes. Even Erica was a little displeased to be stared at with hostility by someone she was not familiar with. "That's exactly what I was thinking. God's layers will fight against God's layers, and their subordinates will fight against their disciples," Lu Yinghua said somewhat impatiently. Wait. Wanli Guyoli was a little confused. She had never thought that such a situation would happen. After all, this is for the glory of our Lord. Liliana Kranikar requests to step forward. Liliana said in a serious tone. "It seems very interesting. I want to participate as well." Huina from the Clear Autumn Courtyard picked up the clouds of heaven and said happily like a child participating in a sports competition. Wait a minute. How can you do this?" Wanli Guyoli said somewhat anxiously. On the other hand, Alice, the culprit, was sitting on the sofa and watching this scene with interest. At this tense moment, Wuming's figure appeared in the villa's living room. Accompanying Wuming was Luo Hao, who was covered in a white cloth and unconscious. "Wuming, my lord." "Lord Wuming, your majesty," the four women responded. Alice tilted her head and smiled at Wuming. Wuming glanced at Alice, then looked at Lu Yinghua. "Your master has fainted in the battle with me. Take care of her." As he spoke, he was about to hand Luo Hao's body over to Lu Yinghua. "Senior, this junior doesn't dare." Lu Yinghua knelt on the ground with a thud and shouted loudly. "It's only right for the disciple to take care of the master. There's nothing to be afraid of." Wuming raised an eyebrow. Could this be another rule set by Luo Hao? "Senior, this junior really doesn't dare. If there's a lie, may the heavens strike me with lightning. Also, you and master are best friends of the opposite sex. It's only right for you to take care of her," Lu Yinghua said, then lowered his head even more. Why don't you all do it? Wu Ming looked at the other women. However, they all shook their heads. My dear, have you forgotten that sect leader Luo Hao is an existence that can gouge out one's eyes upon seeing one's appearance and destroy one's ears upon hearing one's voice? Because of you, the few of us weren't treated like this by the sect leader. However, that also depends on the severity of the matter. Alice continued to speak coquettishly. That's right. Wu Ming, even his disciple, Lu Yinghua, doesn't dare to take on the task, let alone us, Erica added. After sweeping a glance at the few people present, Wu Ming shrugged. Then I'll do it. Then, Wu Ming carried Luo Hao to an empty room. It was because her clothes were torn, and Wu Ming found a white cloth to cover Luo Hao's exposed body. He placed Luo Hao on the bed, lifted the white cloth covering Luo Hao's body, and covered her with a quilt. Let's see if you dare to take advantage of me in the future. Wu Ming smiled, stroked Luo Hao's forehead with his hand, and then left the room. After coming to the living room, Lu Yinghua and the women, who were originally at daggers drawn, no one talked to each other. Wu Ming also studied this problem at the beginning, why Lu Yinghua was so hostile to Erica and the others. As a result, the information found from the information he obtained indicated that Lu Yinghua, who seemed handsome and chic, was extremely disgusted with women, especially powerful women. In layman's terms, it was a disease, and the name of the disease was misogyny. Because Lu Yinghua was trained by Luo Hao since he was a child, and Luo Hao's training method was one word: beating. Of course, Lu Yinghua was the one who was beaten. Over time, Lu Yinghua became extremely hateful of women, especially powerful women, who would always remind him of Luo Hao when he went back. As for the few women present, except for Wanli Guyoli, the rest were all capable and strong women. Erica and Liliana were prodigies trained by Black Cross and Black Cross. Their strength was needless to say. Queen of the Qingqiu courtyard was the Qingqiu courtyard's witch Yuan. She had the ultimate skill of inviting the gods to descend. She was the #1 witch of Japan, and her strength was the strongest among the girls. And Alice was even more so. She was a famous woman who could compete with the Black Prince Yerek with her wisdom. Known as the White Witch, she was the former president of Greenwich's Sage Parliament and the current special advisor. Therefore, Lu Yinghua, who seemed to be a handsome young man, was actually a misogynist who hated women. Well, sit down first. Luo Hao and I are done. Do you want to continue? Wu Ming's words broke the cold atmosphere, and then Wu Ming sat down first, and Alice sat next to Wu Ming. Erica, Liliana, Guyoli, and Qingqiu courtyard Huina stood behind Wu Ming. Of course, Lu Yinghua was also there. You sit down. Wu Ming sighed and commanded. Chapter 218. In the end, Erica and others sat down with Lu Yinghua. Afterward, after a series of conversations, Wu Ming filtered out the series of events just now. After Luo Hao entered the villa, she woke up Alice, who was sleeping. Because Luo Hao was the king, Alice supported her tired body to entertain the guest. Luo Hao, on the other hand, allowed Alice to face Luo Hao with the excuse that, since you're my friend's wife, then you are not guilty, and you don't have to dig out your eyes and ears. Alice, on the other hand, had evil intentions. In addition, the outside world had basically confirmed the relationship between Wu Ming and Alice. Therefore, Alice sat opposite Luo Hao as the hostess of the party. That was why Alice called Wu Ming dear when Wu Ming came back. Luo Hao came to find Wu Ming because Wu Ming had snatched the great sage, Heaven's equal's prey that she had to kill. What Luo Hao said about humiliating her several times was purely Luo Hao's imagination. To put it nicely, she was arrogant, and to put it bluntly, she was opinionated. Afterward, Wu Ming said to Lu Yinghua, Luo Hao is probably going to wake up soon. You should wait outside her door first. After all, if Luo Hao didn't see Lu Yinghua when she woke up, Lu Yinghua would inevitably suffer physical pain. After all, sect leader had a unique temperament. Yes, senpai, I will take my leave first. After asking which room his master was in, Lu Yinghua used his lightness skill and left the living room. Immediately afterward, Wu Ming looked at the women sitting aside. Okay, you can also move freely. The great sage's matter is completely dealt with. I believe Luo Hao, who was defeated by me, will not make trouble again. After all, she was inexplicably full of dignity. With Wu Ming's understanding of Luo Hao, since she was defeated, she would be obedient as the loser. It was not that Wu Ming knew Luo Hao well, but Luo Hao's character was too easy to guess. However, the women didn't move. Now that the great sage, heaven's equal steel, has been eliminated, isn't it time for the strongest steel? Alice asked. That's right. The reason why Wu Ming dealt with the great sage, heaven's equal, was to prevent a calamity from arising from the battle between Luo Hao and the great sage, heaven's equal. On the other hand, Wu Ming wanted the final king to appear. The god of steel was especially easy to summon, and Susanoo also said that he summoned the great sage equaling heaven to eliminate the snake and dragon to prevent the resurrection of the strongest god of steel, the last king, who was sleeping on the easternmost island. Now that Wu Ming had defeated the great sage, heaven's equal, it was time for the strongest steel to show itself. Guinevere had wanted to confirm whether the great sage equaling heaven was the strongest steel, but now that the great sage equaling heaven was being attacked by Wu Ming, no one would think that the great sage equaling heaven was the strongest steel. Because that lord is invincible. Even Vilo-sama is not his opponent. That was what Wu Ming said to Guinevere when she met Wu Ming in the woods. In short, the strongest steel, the last king, would not be defeated. That was what Guinevere would protect, even at the cost of his life. In this regard, Wu Ming would not be arrogant enough to say that he could defeat the last king, but Wu Ming would not avoid the battle because of an unknown enemy. Wu Ming-sama, do you really want to liberate the last king? Alice asked solemnly. The other women who knew the inside story also looked at Wu Ming with a serious expression. Wu Ming only had one answer to that. Of course. Wu Ming's face showed an unruly smile. After all, even if I don't take the initiative to liberate the last king now, the last king will be liberated sooner or later. Wu Ming learned from Guinevere that as long as the number of demon kings on the ground increased, the last king would be awakened. Now, there were 7 godslayers on the ground, including Wu Ming. Because of Wu Ming's nature, the awakening of the last king was weakened, but as long as another human became a godslayer in the future, the last king would be awakened, which was irreversible. Wu Ming couldn't help but think of the boy he met when he first came to this world, Xiao Hu Tang. Wu Ming had a feeling that if there was no Wu Ming at that time, that boy might have become the 7th king. Of course, Wu Ming believed that as long as he was given some opportunities, he would definitely become the 8th king. Wu Ming didn't have the habit of leaving a time bomb in his house. What Wu Ming had to do was to defuse the bomb at the smallest cost. Erica and the others looked at Wu Ming with a smile. This was one of the reasons why they followed this king. Alice sighed, and then, like Erica and the others, looked at Wu Ming with a smile. In that case, I won't stop you, but I have to remind you that the Black Prince Yarek has come to this easternmost island. The Black Prince? Wu Ming thought. When leaving the grove where Guinevere was, Wu Ming vaguely felt a magic power similar to that of the Godslayers, but because there was no need to come into contact with it, Wu Ming didn't care about it. He should have been attracted by the Holy Grail held by Guinevere. The Holy Grail of this world was the Holy Grail of King Arthur mythology, which was refined by Guinevere. The magic power it contained was comparable to that of multiple Godslayers, and it was specially used to provide magic power energy for the awakening of the last king. Wu Ming had read from the information provided by Erica that the Black Prince Yarek had originally sought the Holy Grail, which was held by Guinevere. It was because he refined the Holy Grail that Guinevere was demoted from Mother Earth to godly ancestor. As long as he doesn't provoke me, I won't care about him. Then, Wu Ming spoke again. Next, I will go to Secluded World. Secluded World? The girls were puzzled. I'm going to recover Japan and make it my own territory. Huh. Wanli Gu Yoli and Liliana were obviously shocked by Wu Ming's words. Huina of Qingqiu Courtyard said calmly. Erica frowned and asked after exchanging glances with Alice. Wu Ming, you want to take Japan as your own territory first, and then attack the last king? Erica was indeed worthy of being called Erica. She immediately understood Wu Ming's plan. That's right, Erica is the first to understand. I think Alice should have thought of it long ago. After speaking, Wu Ming looked at Alice, who had an I knew it expression on her face. Of course. Alice smiled slightly. First of all, Wu Ming, you haven't used your territory so far, and this easternmost island is suitable for you. Second, if you subdue the Japanese Magic Association, it will undoubtedly be of great help in the matter of the last king. It was like living in someone else's house was always better than living in one's own house. If one didn't have a house, one could buy someone else's house. After all, the king was very rich, powerful. In that case, how can't stay here any longer? Chapter 219. Everyone turned to look at the source of the voice. The tattered clothes on Luo Hao's body had long disappeared and were replaced by gorgeous clothes. Strangely, Lu Yinghua was not with Luo Hao. Since you are ready to conquer this easternmost land as your territory, I can't stay here for long. My friend Wu Ming, you have the strength to look down on me, the king of Wuxia, Luo Hao. I admit defeat. Besides, you already have a wife. Even if we have been honest with each other again, let's continue to be friends and confidants. Speaking of me, Luo Hao turned around and disappeared using God's feet, leaving behind Wu Ming and the others with a confused look. To be honest, Wu Ming didn't know when he and Luo Hao became friends. Thinking about it carefully, it should have started at Lushan Mountain. Was it because they were honest with each other and couldn't become each other's other half, so they became friends? Wu Ming expressed that he was depressed. Allah, it seems like Lord Leader really wants to be your husband and wife. How did you treat her? Alice looked at Wu Ming with a joyful expression. However, Wu Ming always felt that there was a trace of jealousy in Alice's words. After all, they were also a pair recognized by the outside world. Even if she didn't feel anything at the beginning, now Alice naturally had some feelings for Wu Ming. Who cares about her? Who doesn't know that there is no normal god slayer? Wu Ming waved his hand helplessly. Thinking about it, Salvatore, Warban, and Luo Hao, which one of them was not a problem child? Madame Aisha had a physique that unconsciously involved her surroundings, but she could always turn danger into safety. The only one who could be regarded as righteous was the American god slayer, John Pluto Smith. But it was said that he was also full of chinibyu. Otherwise, he wouldn't wear a motorcycle helmet like a superhero and wear a thick coat to protect the American people. The Black Prince Yarek was the only king who claimed to be different from other godslayers. Yarek did not like to face his enemies head-on. He usually used tricks to deal with his enemies. That was why Alice was able to compete with Yarek despite the well-known conclusion that humans could not defeat the godslayers. However, even though Yarek said so, Wu Ming knew that Yarek was also eager to fight. This was what it meant to be a godslayer. Then, I'll go find some trouble. I'll be right back. After saying that, Wu Ming disappeared from a hall. Hidden world. After all, he had been here before. Wu Ming naturally knew the method to head to the secluded world. After arriving at secluded world, Wu Ming immediately moved to a small wooden hut. Without any nonsense, Wu Ming pushed the door open and entered. This time, there was no old monk and princess glass eyes in the room. There was only Susanoo, who was drinking alone and having fun. I won't say much. Give me the history editing committee, and I will destroy the last king. Wu Ming sat across from Susanoo and looked at him as he continued to speak. Your goal is not to revive the last king and let him sleep. My goal is to let him sleep forever. There is no conflict. After drinking a mouthful of wine, Susanoo laughed. Should I say that you are arrogant, or should I say that you are fearless? If you haven't seen the last king, you won't believe it. You can't defeat him. It could only be said that Susanoo's character was in line with the character in the myths. Are you trying to say that you are afraid? Wu Ming asked. Afraid? Ha ha ha. When have I ever been afraid? I'm just reminding you. Susanoo took another sip of wine and looked at Wu Ming. It's not impossible to give you the history editing committee, but Susanoo's magic began to condense. This is the result of my many years of hard work. It's too easy to give it to you. Boom! Tyrannical magic broke out from the cabin and completely destroyed the cabin. Wu Ming flew out from the explosion of the cabin and gently landed on the ground. Looking at the fully armed Susanoo in front of him, Wu Ming couldn't help but raise the corner of his mouth. This is also what I want. Then you could try my new ability. I am strongest, and I hold all the victory in my hands. Be it human or demon, I am a person who can defeat all enemies, and I will defeat any enemy that stands in my way. Giants with unparalleled divine power, please give me your aid. Fear the one with wings. Evil people and powerful people are all afraid of me who have wings. My wings will bring you curses. Evil people can't hit me. In an instant, the long and short hands pointed to 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock respectively. The giant stone plate and the phoenix stone plate lit up. Feeling the threat from Wu Ming, Susanoo gathered a strong storm around him. It's not over yet. Wu Ming shouted. I will deny the sky, deny the earth. The storm will destroy everything, and the rain will cover everything. With this supreme divine power, I will make everything in heaven and earth bow down. You have violated the contract and brought sin to the world. On Lord's Day, sinners will be punished. Crush their backs, dig out their bones, hair, and brains, and trample on their blood and mud. If I am the one who cannot be approached by darkness, I will follow the words of the Lord and destroy you. In an instant, the hands in Wu Ming's heart turned and pointed to the 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock. However, the 2 stone plates in the 2 o'clock and 10 o'clock continued to light up and didn't go out. At this moment, Wu Ming activated 4 avatars. The dark red shadow of a small giant wrapped around Wu Ming's body. Wu Ming, who entered the state of lightning speed, instantly moved in front of Susanoo. Try this move of mine, Susanoo shouted. The storm gathered around him instantly burst toward Wu Ming. The storm comparable to a super typhoon instantly struck in front of Wu Ming. If Salvatore, who was blessed with the defense authority, was hit by this blow, he would probably be disabled. But the storm in the opposite direction of this storm was released by Wu Ming. The storm was offset when the forward rotation met the reverse rotation. All the evildoers be afraid of my power. Now, I will get the majesty of 10 mountains, the power of 100 rivers, and the strength of 1,000 giant dragons. The majestic me will raise the mark of a fierce dragon. Lightning, lightning, lightning. I am the conqueror who can defeat thousands with white, thousands with thousands, and tens of thousands with tens of thousands. Now, please shine brightly for me, who is standing on the side of justice, and give me divine power. 2 more power stone plates lit up. At this moment, half of the small stone plate in Wu Ming's heart lit up. The giant phantom turned into a giant dragon phantom with countless thunder and lightning entwined on it. Then, the dragon claw, full of annihilation, accompanied by countless thunder and storm, attacked Susanoo. Boom! Chapter 220. Wu Ming left secluded world, leaving behind Susanoo, who was in a mess. The result was obvious. Susanoo's life was easily lost. After all, Wu Ming had activated his 6th incarnation. Wu Ming didn't kill him. Although his character was quite bad, Susanoo still indirectly helped Wu Ming. If it weren't for him, Huina wouldn't come to Wu Ming's side, and Wu Ming wouldn't go to Yushur, and he wouldn't know about the last king. Secondly, his purpose was to prevent the resurrection of the last king. No matter what the reason was, the result was always good. Therefore, Wu Ming spared Susanoo's life. Regarding the problem of multiple incarnations, Wu Ming recently discovered that as long as a large amount of magical power was stored in the stone plate, even if the pointer was cancelled, the incarnations wouldn't fail. As a result, Wu-Ming developed a true overlapping of incarnations, unlike the double incarnations in the long and short pointer state. That was the complete control without side effects. Noble Phantasm, 12 incarnations, God's Killer. Each incarnation was comparable to a Noble Phantasm, and Noble Phantasm was the key to turning defeat into victory. Wu-Ming, who activated 6 Noble Phantasms, was too much of a bug. Even Susanu's life couldn't withstand it. Annihilation broke all of Susanu's defenses. Titan provided power, so that every blow could hurt Susanu's life. Thunder God and Storm provided restraining effect. Too much wind and lightning would break steel. Phoenix provided speed, so that Susanu couldn't escape, and Dragon Seed provided mutual restraint. Without Dragon Snake, Steel Hero was useless. Steel Hero obtained the weapon to defeat Dragon Snake from Mother Earth Dragon Snake, which also meant that Dragon Snake could devour steel. Combined with the above, Wu-Ming easily subdued Susanu's life. After all, the god of disobedience was just a god's incarnation, and its ability was naturally inferior to a real god. It could only be said that the power of Noble Phantasm was too powerful, and the power it exerted was comparable to the power of a real god, which Wu-Ming experienced in Uruk. Then, after defeating Susanu's life, Wu-Ming left after Susanu said, "It seems that I have to live in seclusion." Although Susanu would use some tricks and the like, Wu-Ming didn't care. After all, his strength was here. Who would be afraid of a trick? After leaving Yushur, he contacted Sebastian, who was sent by Wu-Ming to meet Satya. "How is it, Sebastian? Did you successfully meet Satya?" "I'm really sorry, Lord Wu-Ming. Satya seems to have been targeted by America's Godslayer. The other party's power is a little difficult to deal with, so Satya hasn't met up with me for the time being." Sebastian's old but strong voice sounded. "America's Godslayer? That should be John Pluto Smith. He's a complete Chinibyu. I reckon that Satya's cruel methods attracted him." Wu-Ming said, "Forget it. There's no rush now. Help Satya escape from the Godslayer first. Bring Dragon Snake over when it's safe." "Yes, Lord Wu-Ming." Then, Wu-Ming cut off the communication. Jean Pluto Smith? It's unfortunate that Zaisha ran into this superhero. After all, he was an existence that took it as his duty to fight criminals and evil. At this moment, a black wind blew, and an owl flew over and landed on Wu-Ming's shoulder. "My compatriot, I've already unlocked the seal on Gorgon Stone. I have to say that you do have unique insights in this area. Even I, the goddess of wisdom, am impressed by this sealing technique," Wu-Ming said as he walked slowly. "You're flattering me. I'm just using the knowledge that Master taught me. After all, this was also the strength of the dragon of Origin's body. I prepared a battle stage for you and me. Tonight at midnight, I'll be waiting for you at the Invisible Island in the Pacific Ocean." With that, the owl flew away. Invisible Island. Wu-Ming stopped and pondered. The Invisible Island was where the 3 Gorgon sisters lived. Legend had it that it was filled with stone statues of various people. They had overestimated themselves and came to crusade against Medusa, but they were petrified by Medusa. Logically speaking, the Invisible Island should no longer exist. However, since Athena said so, it meant that she had summoned the place where the 3 Gorgon sisters lived. As expected of the goddess of Medusa, Athena, and Medea. The Invisible Island. With that, Wu-Ming walked toward the villa. Just as he approached the villa, Wu-Ming discovered a large hole in the wall of the villa. Attack! Wu-Ming shook his head and denied this possibility. Then, Wu-Ming walked into the villa and saw Erica drinking afternoon tea. "Where are the others? Also, Erica, what's with the hole in the villa?" Wu-Ming asked curiously. Her Highness Alice went back to her room to rest due to her exhaustion. Yuli went home to take care of her sister. Lily sent her off. As for Huina from a clear autumn courtyard, she should be cultivating now. Then, Erica took a sip of tea. As for the hole, it wasn't your good friend's doing. Luo Hao. After Erica's explanation, Wu-Ming learned the origin of the hole. When Luo Hao woke up and found herself lying in bed, she could not help but feel annoyed that she had lost to Wu-Ming. Then, She changed her clothes and opened the door. Lu Yinghua was kneeling on the ground, waiting for Luo Hao to wake up. Then, for some unknown reason, Luo Hao gave Lu Yinghua a palm strike, and a large hole appeared in the villa. According to Erica, it might have been because she was unhappy. Wu Ming blushed with shame. "So, you just sitting here doing nothing?" Wu Ming sat on the sofa and commented on Erica. "What do you mean by doing nothing? Afternoon tea is also a compulsory course." Then, Erica looked at Wu Ming, who was unscathed but slightly dirty, and asked, "Did you have a fight with Susanu's man?" "Yeah, that's right. We had a fight." Wu Ming casually picked up a piece of pastry and stuffed it into his mouth. "If I'm not mistaken, the History Redaction Committee should have been subdued by Sayako Miyazaki." "So easy." Erica was in disbelief. After all, the History Redaction Committee was the official magic association of Japan. How could it be subdued so easily, even if the other party was a god-slayer? After all, the History Redaction Committee has always been controlled by Susanu's man. Now that I defeated Susanu's man and he's officially going into seclusion, the higher-ups of the History Redaction Committee can't wait to find a backer. Wu Ming leaned on the sofa and said casually. Erica shrugged uninterestedly. "I thought I would be able to F***CK some disobedient magician. It's a good chance to exercise my body." Erica stretched, and her body was exposed. Wu Ming glanced casually, then turned his head and said, "By the way, is your relationship with Qingqiu Courtyard's Huina still not good?" Chapter 221. Wu Ming was a little concerned. After all, when Erica mentioned names, only Huina of the Clear Autumn Courtyard called her by her surname, while the others called her by her first name. You can't say that we're not on good terms. It's her fault for always wanting to defeat me, the first wife, to obtain the position of first wife. Her Highness Alice is clearly the first wife. Erica waved her hand helplessly. Back then, when Huina of the Clear Autumn Courtyard first came to Wu Ming's side as an attendant, she immediately challenged Erica to a duel in order to be the first wife. Although Wu Ming, Erica, and the others denied the so-called first wife, whenever something happened, as long as Wu Ming was not around, the girls would follow Erica's lead. This inevitably made Huina of the Clear Autumn Courtyard and Erica somewhat hostile. It was not until Alice came to Japan that Huina of the Clear Autumn Courtyard slowed down her attacks on Erica. Now that he thought about it, it seemed that Alice was the real first wife. What's going on? Wu Ming raised an eyebrow. Forget it. After all, with Her Highness Alice, our relationship has improved quite a bit. Let Her Highness Alice help us with the title of first wife. Erica smiled slyly. If Alice were here, she would definitely accept it. Not only because of the relationship between Wu Ming and Alice, but also because of Alice's bad taste. Wu Ming believed that she would accept it. Forget it. I have something to tell you. Wu Ming shook his head and stopped thinking about those messy things. His expression became serious. I've returned the Gorgon Stone to Athena. She and I have a duel on the invisible island in the Pacific Ocean tonight. Puffed. Erica, who was drinking black tea, could not help but spit it out. What did you say? Erica looked at Wu Ming rather helplessly. I knew that God's layers are troublesome existences. Erica sighed. Wu Ming felt a little embarrassed. After all, he had secretly given the item that caused the starless night, which caused the end of the world, to the enemy. Although Wu Ming and Athena were both friends and foes, it was true. Well, don't say that. Athena's existence is also a problem, so I'm prepared to defeat her in one go. After all, Athena was the goddess of wisdom. Her most terrifying thing was not her power, but her wisdom. I'm guessing that you won't kill Athena. Erica looked at Wu Ming suspiciously. How's that? This made Erica feel a little awkward. After all, Wu Ming and Athena made a bet that the loser would become the subordinate god of the winner because he didn't want to kill Athena. If Silent Wonder won, not only would they be able to restrict Athena, but they would also be able to draw Athena's strength to their side. Why not? After all, you're especially gentle to women, my Lord Wong. But even so, Erica didn't object. After all, logically speaking, Wu Ming wasn't the kind of person who would lay his hands on someone he had a good relationship with. Do you still need to tell the others? Erica asked. Forget about that. Thinking of Liliana's righteous teachings and Wanli Guyoli's furious teachings, Wu Ming felt that it was better not to tell them. I feel like you're a heartless man who cheats on his wife and has a mistress, Erica teased. Whatever you say. Wu Ming had already given up. A moment later, Wu Ming left. In the villa, Wu Ming told Erica to say that he had not returned from the hidden world to cover it up. Using magic power to fly, Wu Ming arrived at a certain part of the Pacific Ocean. The magic power here was especially abundant and was filled with a dark aura. As he flew down, a small island appeared before Wu Ming's eyes. The sky, which had not yet darkened, was now completely dark due to some unknown factor. Wu Ming landed on the island and looked around at this terrifying island. The island was filled with stone statues. They were the legendary heroes who had been petrified by Medusa's petrifying demon eye. Each stone statue was different in shape, but they had one thing in common, which was that the stone statues' faces were filled with fear. If a person with a weak state of mind were to come here, it was very likely that they would be affected by the aura emitted by these stone statues filled with terror. You really have a bad taste, Athena, Wu Ming said to the surroundings. They only have themselves to blame. A beautiful female voice similar to Athena sounded. Black fog appeared in front of Wu Ming, and a beautiful girl walked out of it. The girl had waist-length hair and wore a straw hoop on her head. She wore a Greek-style white off-the-shoulder dress. Her golden snake eyes were dazzling, and her beautiful face was unknowingly mesmerizing. In addition to that, a terrifying and powerful aura came from the girl. That aura was far more threatening than Susanu's. Even Wu Ming didn't have such a terrifying aura. Obviously, that was Athena, the goddess of the earth, who had restored her Trinity true form. Is this your original appearance? That lowly is more interesting. Wu Ming touched his chin and carefully looked at Athena. Oh, you really dare to say that, Villo there answered. For the sake of being a snake, if you take the initiative to surrender, I can let you become my companion instead of a lowly subordinate god. As she spoke, Athena's aura was instantly released, and the monstrous aura of a queen gushed out. You're no longer the three-eyed lowly you used to be. Although you're quite interesting in your current queen form, I still prefer the three-eyed lowly you. Wu Ming didn't answer Athena's question. Instead, he commented on her. Athena's snake-like eyes glowed brightly. It seems that you refuse. Isn't it obvious? Furthermore, I am an existence that once sat on the throne. Surrendering without a fight is not in line with my character. As he spoke, Wu Ming bared his teeth and revealed an unruly smile. Originally, as a non-human, Wu Ming had some of the instincts of a beast. Now that Wu Ming had the physique of a god-slayer, those instincts were even more obvious. God-slayers were a group of warlike existences, and they could become stronger as long as they fought. They would adapt to their abilities in battle, and in the end, their authority would become like the instincts of wild beasts, able to do as they pleased. Then, let's fulfill the agreement of that day. The loser will listen to the winner's arrangement. Athena took out a large dragon snake scythe from the black mist behind her. That's what I wanted. Wu Ming also took out a gun from the golden ripples. After that, Athena and Wu Ming moved at the same time. The black sickle, which represented death, and the white holy spear, which represented life, clashed for the first and last time. Chapter 222. In the Pacific Ocean, the terrifying island that had just appeared recently, death and life were fighting against each other. Whoosh! Athena, who was holding a scythe, swung it fiercely toward Wu Ming, and several black blades of death shot toward Wu Ming. Bang! 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 Silent, who was holding the spear of the world tree, Yggdrasil, used the tip of the spear, which was filled with life elements, to deflect the black blades. Then, Wu-Ming held Yggdrasil in a reverse grip and placed it on his shoulder. Yggdrasil, with the incomplete release of the noble phantasm, the white holy spear turned into a green beam of light full of life and burst toward Athena. Athena waved her hand, and a few ferocious-looking giant rock snakes rose from the ground and blocked Athena's path. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Several giant snakes roared and rushed toward the green light beams. Bang, bang, bang. After breaking through several giant snakes, the energy of the noble phantasm weakened, and it was bitten by a giant snake behind a large number of stones. After all, it was an incomplete noble phantasm. It was used by Wu-Ming to test the waters. Even if it was broken, Wu-Ming was not annoyed. Wu-Ming waved his hand, and Yggdrasil, which was bitten by the giant snake, began to vibrate violently in the snake's mouth. Bang! The sound of glass breaking came from the giant snake's mouth, and its head exploded. Yggdrasil returned to Wu-Ming's hand and was firmly grasped by Wu-Ming. At this time, the sound of something breaking through the air came. Whoosh! Wu-Ming hurriedly dodged a sharp arrow. Wu-Ming looked at the source of the arrow. Athena was holding a quaint oak bough in her hand, aiming at Wu-Ming. As he pulled the string, 2 arrows appeared on the oak bough. Whoosh! 2 more arrows flew toward Wu-Ming. Wu-Ming raised his hand, and Yggdrasil bounced the 2 arrows away. Immediately afterward, Wu-Ming jumped up in an instant, and a huge snake appeared in Wu-Ming's position. Then, the giant snake, which was a few times larger than the others, rushed toward Wu-Ming. Noble and powerful, wise and kind, I will become a miracle and lead the world to the dawn. Wu-Ming's stone plate lit up, and a long pointer pointed at 12 o'clock, and the invisible magic flame attached to Wu-Ming's body. Heaven fire! The holy white flame turned in a spiral shape and shot toward the giant rock snake. Whoosh! Like gasoline being ignited by flames, the giant rock snake was instantly infected by the white flames and burned. Hiss! Then, the giant rock snake screamed as it was burned to ashes by the flames. At this time, Wu-Ming turned around. Clang! Wu-Ming's white holy lance Yggdrasil collided with the black dragon snake's scythe, and sparks splashed. It was Athena, who wanted to sneak attack Wu-Ming, but was discovered, as expected of the goddess of wisdom and war. She's really something. Wu-Ming smiled happily. It's just a small trick in front of you. Sure enough, I like you more and more. Right now, her intention was to have Wu-Ming submit to Athena, full of the aura of a queen. I don't have the habit of being under others. You'd better be obedient and be my subordinate god. Wu-Ming and Athena suddenly exerted their strength and collided with each other. Wu-Ming stretched out his hand, and countless golden ripples appeared, and golden chains burst out from it. The target was Athena. Athena hurriedly retreated, and Enkidu hurriedly wrapped around Athena. Athena, who was in the air, constantly dodged and avoided the golden chains. While Athena was still dodging the chains, Wu-Ming returned Enkidu to Enkidu. Wu-Ming raised his spear and attacked. Countless green energy emerged from Yggdrasil and formed green vines. Together with Wu-Ming's hand, the vines wrapped around Yggdrasil, and a huge green vine spear wrapped around Wu-Ming's hand appeared. Athena was indeed the goddess of wisdom. She was very relaxed when dodging Enkidu's attack. Athena looked at Wu-Ming and stared at Wu-Ming. Then, Athena's golden snake eyes turned gray and emitted a terrifying magic power. Wu-Ming could clearly feel that his speed had slowed down, and his legs were gradually losing feeling. Then, Athena looked at him again. Glancing at his petrified feet, Wu-Ming instantly released his magic power, and the petrified parts on Wu-Ming's body began to fall off. The grayish-black snake eyes scanned Enkidu. Enkidu, who was in charge of Enkidu, instantly sensed the abnormality of Enkidu. Lord Wu-Ming, the opponent, is using the demon eye of petrification, Enkidu said to Wu-Ming. Wu-Ming understood, and Enkidu entered the golden ripples and was put away by Wu-Ming. Then, Wu-Ming chanted a new language. Lightning, lightning, lightning. I'm the conqueror who can defeat 1,000 with white, 10,000 with 1,000, and 10,000 with 10,000. Now, for me, who is on the side of justice, please shine brightly and bestow me with divine power. I am the one who will crush all enemies and enmity between humans and demons. Fear the one with wings. Evil people and powerful people are all afraid of me with wings. My wings will bring you curses. Evil people will not be able to hit me. The long and short needles pointed at the 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock respectively, and the Thunder God and Phoenix avatars activated one after another. Wuming, who had turned into an invisible lightning bolt, was not affected by Athena's demon eye of petrification. Wuming was so fast that Athena did not even have time to react, and he instantly appeared beside her. Wuming turned into a human and stabbed at Athena. As if hit by a meteorite, Athena fell heavily to the ground, stirring up a large amount of dust. As the dust settled, Wuming, who was holding a huge vine spear, looked at the large crater that was gradually healing after being destroyed. Your island is quite sturdy. It can even heal itself, Wuming said in surprise. It's useless. As long as this invisible island is not completely destroyed, it can automatically heal itself. Just like me, the mother goddess of the underworld and death, I have an incomparably strong regenerative ability and vitality. Even if I'm injured, I can quickly recover. Athena looked at Wuming with a teasing smile. Is that so? Wuming's lips curled up as he continued. Then, I will destroy you along with this island. He canceled the Thunder God and Phoenix avatars, and the long and short needles pointed at the 11 o'clock direction. For victory, come to me quickly. Undying sun, please bestow upon me a shining steed. Horses with enough intelligence, bring me the light wheel that symbolizes your master. Hey, you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.